Everything about tonight's meeting is back there by the door, the entryway, or you can log on to rockridgepublicschools.org. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record reflect that that we have a full board here. Item 2, approval of the agenda. Get a motion to approve the agenda.
Make the motion.
Support.
Motion by Director Yuan, support by Director Reardon. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, recognition of visitor input. Mr. Walton. I got one addition to the agenda. 6.61. We'll add it for the closure of the Virginia campus. Okay, so add that to your 6.61. It'll be right after the Curriculum Advisory Committee discussion.
Should have a vote on that. We already voted on the agenda. So I'll make a motion to accept the 6.61.
Okay, motion by Tim Reardon, support by Director Lotiger. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have we'll go back to visitor input. Mr. Walton, he is asked to speak at tonight's meeting. Please keep it to 3 minutes, Tom. Did you keep it to 3 minutes, please?
Thomas Walton, Evelyn, Minnesota. The last meeting you brought up an ongoing controversy, and that's the AG opinion by Hubert Humphrey from 66 about open meetings and committees. I'm going to read you a little bit of that. Mere attendance by an additional council member at a meeting of a council committee held in compliance with the open meeting law would not constitute special county council meeting requiring special notice. Such members should not participate in committee discussions or deliberations. Now, when Polly comes to a committee meeting, she doesn't say anything. She doesn't deliberate. But what's the controversy? You people have made it a controversy. Now, I have an opinion, or an email here from Taya Moxley Goldsmith about this. And she says that she's not aware of any changes to the open meeting law following that opinion. And she mentions an advisory opinion 19-012 that speaks to that. And this deals with where one school board member, I think it was a school board member, went to a committee meeting and he participated in a discussion. And they said that was a violation. But when Polly goes to a meeting, she doesn't discuss anything. She never says a word. So the controversy is on you people. Now, there is a mechanism to deal with that controversy, and that is State Statute 8.07, Opinions, Questions of Public Importance, Public Schools. Now, since there's already an AG opinion, which stands, and the advisory opinion supports that, it says, on all school board matters, such opinions shall be decisive until the question involved shall be decided otherwise or by a court of competent jurisdiction. So you have a mechanism to controversy. You can have your attorney petition the court or whatever and make his case, but you haven't done that. Why not? And still, at the last meeting, it's a big deal. Why? You're derelict in your duty not to eliminate this controversy. Otherwise, you run the risk again of having one of your people, by force, try and bar Polly from entering a building.
Thanks, Tom.
No, I'm not done yet.
Tom, you had your 3 minutes.
You
Okay.
can let it go a little bit.
Tom?
I don't have much more.
Tom, you've had your 3 minutes.
You have 3 options, like I said. Your attorney
Doesn't
can
follow
petition
them,
the court,
then we don't have them speak at the next one.
Okay.
or you continue what is really a cover-up of the censure that you gave Polly when you punished her.
Tom, please. Okay, you've had your 3 minutes.
Eliminate the controversy.
Tom, thank you.
Here's the stuff. Have your
Okay, thank you for your,
secretary make a copy.
thank you for your consideration, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 4, the construction update.
Hello again. It is quarterly update time. This is a good thing. We're rapidly go through this. This is the update on all of your projects by quarter. You ready with the first one?
It's warming up still.
Yeah. Well, perfect.
Yeah, it should be up by the time they get done.
Sounds good. Notice how we added the district administration building in. This time we've had the 4 slides up there before, but we felt that it's time to add the district administration building is especially because of the mechanical upgrade. So, real quick, we're gonna go over those core 4, right? The schedule, the safety, the quality, and the budget update. And then we will have number 2, which is our amendment number 9. So last time we had a deduct because we shuffled the funding and we got more complete on a lot of our contracts. We were able to close things out. And we've got the same thing this time as a small deduct across Anderson's contract that we just will have you vote on at the end. And then we'll provide that credit back on that. So schedule. This is our executive level schedule here. As you know, we've got the Laurentian, as well as the high school, North Star, and then the demolition projects that are pretty intermittent, depending on when buildings were ready to demolish. Our bar over here is where we're at today. It's a good thing. We've got Laurentian behind us, we've got the high school behind us, and as you know, is being utilized quite well right now with extracurricular activities. And then we've got North Star Elementary. Oops. And the demolition projects, we've got the 3 major projects done, 4 with Gilbert, and then we've got the Virginia projects and the Evelyn in the future, depending on where we're at in state funding. This thing is crazy. Okay, so currently, Laurentian's 100%, the high school is 99%, the North Star is 40%, and the demolition projects are 87%. But that 87% is computed on these projects. We aren't including the ones that require additional funding, just so you know how that percentage is working out. So we're moving along in this process. This is the last time you'll get a quarterly update on the high school, because we are moving into the grand opening that's coming in May, and I'm gonna let Paul Knoll, the project manager for that, to talk through a little bit of where we're at in the high school.
Sounds good. Thank you, Patrick. Your highlight of the evening is that this is the last time you will now ever have to hear me speak again. So this is, yeah, there we go. Yeah. Round of applause. So after 16 months of design process, 30 months of construction, and a couple of transition months here afterwards, we're well into 4 years on this entire trajectory of the project. And we're all very excited for the 11th of May now, when the public grand opening of the building will be occurring. can't wait to see the gathering that Stacy and your entire team are putting together to share this incredible project and building with the community that has supported it throughout this entire process. So that's our great news story of the meeting today. One of the themes that you'll also find, and like Patrick had just mentioned, the finalization and the locking of the high school's budget and its memorialization of all of the final costs has also been completed, and we'll have some items on that coming up here shortly as well. So a couple of things you see, we listed it at 99% complete right now. So there will be a couple of outbuilding construction items still occurring. A lot of these are the student projects, and like we talked about, that's several more years worth of opportunities for construction involvement with your different students and classes. So there are some things still ongoing with that. And then we also put together a short list of some items that still need to be completed to be able to 100% finalize the project. So right now, there's just a couple of gym floor touch-ups going on. That's a cosmetic type item. The striping of the running track is going to occur in the later parts of May of 2023. Some windscreens that need to get hung up at the baseball softball field. A couple of landscaping and site work touch-up things. You might see a dead tree here or a dead tree there. Those items are going to get replaced, and once the thawing occurs and the weather warms up a little bit, then your earthwork contractor is going to be able to finalize those last site touch-up items. Some minor programming of the lights in the Performing Arts Center, and then highlighted in this green bar here is a couple of items that the district has also just been taking on, but we wanted to put onto the list here. So doing some grandstand updates at the varsity baseball and varsity softball field, so there's some additional seating put out there. Finishing up some tweaks on the grandstand scrim. That's your beautiful logo, "This is Wolverine" territory on the stadium. And then hanging up the video board at the Aquatics Center, which is what all of the folks who are sitting in the stadia and looking towards that end wall will be able to see that 8-panel video display. And then we're working towards those 11-month warranty walkthroughs for the site, the outside of the building, and then the interior of the building. These are calculated as 11 months after the initial punch lists were completed for those various spaces. And so in August will be the walkthrough of the site. Later on in September, we'll do the envelope. And then in December, which is right around your holiday break time, that's when the 11-month warranty walkthrough will take place. And that's really the last walkthrough chance to be able to gather up anything else inside of the building and get it all documented and accounted for while all of your contractors still have their 1-year warranty in effect. That's why we time it at 11 months out of 12 months. We can maximize that value for you. All right, on the safety side of things, in the big bubble up on the top here, I just wanted to call this out and highlight it as a point. Over 560,000 labor hours were invested into the Rock Ridge High School project, and out of that, there was no major safety incident or concern that occurred that entire time. That's an amazing accomplishment because the district had invested into the safety on the site, the KA team, and all of your participating contractors, even the public. Everyone worked together to make sure that everyone was able to go home in as good or better condition at the end of the day. 560,000 labor hours worth of time. It's an incredible feat.
So just one thing I want to bring up about that. Because we haven't had any major accidents or incidents like that, keep in mind in a CMA contract where you hold each of these contractors directly with the school district, if somebody were to get hurt significantly on a project, they can do third-party lawsuits that come back at the district. So it's not just Kraus wants to be safe because that's the way we do business, which is the way we do business, but it protects you as well because you have that contractual obligation directly. So that is huge to not have paying your attorney that works for you on retainer to have to fight different workman's compensation type rules, besides the fact that it's just the right thing to do. So it is a huge accomplishment to get through that many hours.
Great, thanks Patrick. The current updates are some metrics across all of your active projects for number of workers on site, number of contractors that are active, no OSHA violations in the last quarter, no accidents in the last quarter, and in the upcoming quarter, there will be another state of Minnesota OSHA consultation that'll be occurring, and that'll be focused on a walkthrough for the North Star Elementary project. All right, just a couple of photos, just like we did with the Laurentian project when it reached its completion and the final quarterly report was done. We have a little photo inventory to share with the group tonight. We'll go brief on it though. So we have two aerial photos to start. The first one shows your entire campus that is woven together here and in its completed state. It'll be really great to see as things green up, but you can really see how that entire campus feel has really stitched together and how impressive it all is. And then off to the side too, hard to capture it all in one photo, is your beautiful baseball, softball fields that are off to the side here.
Where you've already done a game in the rain at night with the lights on.
With the lights. Wonderful. Okay, a couple of the rendering comparisons. Hopefully that snow goes away very quickly, but this is your main entry here, and your beautiful sequence on your way into the space. And so now when you walk into the space, here is your greeting area. This is where the first contact for the students and the public and everyone who comes into the space is. That says, welcome to Rockridge High School. And then there are a couple of steps forward after that, brings you into the main commons, the beautiful timber structure, how open and transparent everything is. Really starting to breathe some life into it as the furniture continues to get set up. Principal Winters continues to transition into the facility as September is going to be here before we know it. Down on the learning neighborhoods, you can start to see how this group collaboration furniture is beginning to be set up. Your beautiful Performing Arts Center, where the first show, I think even, has been set up and been starting to run too. The fitness center, the Wolverines get nice and strong. Your beautiful activities commons between the gymnasium and the pool. Your beautiful gymnasium itself, and we couldn't just leave it with this empty, unoccupied picture there too. You know, we attend these events as well. I think Pete Oven, you took this picture on the inaugural basketball game.
Thanks for the photograph.
Yeah, you got it.
I didn't see Cheyenne in that one.
And then back over at the stadium, your grandstands, that track again, that'll get striped here in May. You get the lines onto it, and then your nice entry plaza as well.
Just to go back to that track, I mean, we've scheduled that for a 21st, I believe. 22nd of May. That's about as early as we can do it because it's so temperature dependent. And if you try to rush that process, those lines can come off, and then you've got to do a removal process as well as a reapplication. We were just off like by days at the end of last season, and that's where we're at today. So hopefully it'll get over 40 degrees by the 22nd.
And that was mostly caused by the really late frost out in 2023's spring, where we really didn't get started on that stadium until June 8th, which was three or 4 weeks later than we typically would be able to. Okay, we'll just do 5 seconds on each one of these detail photos. There was quite a few of them, so we'll just keep running. Again, this shows some of the details and accents and backlighting on your main entry reception area. The beautiful graphic that was installed onto the wall as well as you transition back into the administration space. The Cleveland Cliffs Commons and that connection to the exterior learning courtyard. You can really get a sense of the different types of seating, whether it's booths or high tops or the kind of the group seatings. Really neat what was done with the furniture there. You've got the timber, you've got the steel. The design really came together nice in this main commons space. And then also looking at it from up above towards that main entry. Okay, off to the side, then you've got the servery where all the students will be eating each day here. Looks like the dining center at UMD. It's definitely collegiate level.
Cleaner.
But it's much cleaner. All right, and then the commercial kitchen space. You've got the culinary arts lab where your students are able to engage at a much higher level with the family and consumer science. ProStart kitchen area and the equivalent of what was the Urban Edge back when I was at Virginia High School here. We've got the Ridgewood Marketplace. This transition up to the third level of the building with your feature stair. Nice custom full height 3-story graphic. Up on the upper level, you've got your media commons, all of the books, and again, all those media alcoves are spread throughout the building too, so you've got access to books and hard copy literature all throughout the building. Really easy to access and present. The tech support, the
Hey, Paul, could you go
Our
back
style
to
setup.
slides? Excuse me, board, but I want to point one thing out. Go back to the media center. Because we heard this rumor that we're to have no books in the library. We have books all over the place in this library. So if you hear people saying there's no books in the schools, there's no books in the new schools, that is completely not correct. We're loading books all over the building. We still believe in kids having a book in their hand. Research is really clear of the importance of it. So I just want to kill a rumor before one even starts. We are putting lots of books in the high school.
Can I ask a question? How are they going to be checked out, and how can you locate books when you're researching a project?
They'll be scanners, so the kids can self-check out a book and hand them in. And so then we'll have a way for kids, if they need to find certain books, we're looking down the media center commons right here. The most heavily ones used will be there, so they're easier to find. And then we'll have the rest of them, we know where they are. And Deb Zadney knows where they are. We'll have a system so we can direct kids to where the books are also.
I understand that from the Dewey Decimal System, you're going to genres of books,
Correct.
categories. I don't know how that works, but.
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt. All right, the learning courtyard area, that's also going to green up here. You can see some of the fixed benches that have been built, and there's also some loose furniture that'll get set up out there. This is an example of a completed locker bay. It's outside of each one of your learning neighborhoods, so there's 6 total of these areas. Gives you a sense of what the final configuration is. Easy visibility, be able to see over those.
I'm sorry, you gotta go back for a second. And across from each locker bay are the bathroom areas. You're looking over the sinks, and then each of the individual stalls are behind you. And that is common throughout all of the different areas where they are located.
Great point. Thank you, Patrick. Right. Another sense of how this furniture is bringing these medium-sized and larger-sized collaboration spaces together that are outside of the learning studios. This is inside of one of the Flex Learning Studios. You get an idea of the final configurations of some of the educational environments. And inside some of the more science-oriented spaces, these are your new beautiful laboratories. Lots of flexibility with those cord reels and the sinks and the setup to be able to meet any of the needs that you're going to implement into those spaces. Right, and then into the Woods Lab space, you can actually see it almost in its functional identity here, because a lot of your equipment and then a lot of the stock has already been populated into the space. And inside the entry to your music suite area, and it's got its own little collaboration area, which is great. Here's your sets that are already set up for your first production inside of your beautiful Performing Arts Center.
I went to the play the other day. The acoustics were great. The lighting was great. Very nice.
That's great to hear.
And we,
Thank you for sharing.
just so you know, we changed out all the carpet that was in there. We just weren't happy with it, and the design team wasn't either. And Mannington actually went good on it and had it all removed and put back in. So that shows the quality level that they were committed to as well as a team.
Yep.
And then the performer view. Not a bad seat in the house, and you can get a sense of the starry night sky too. It's very neat. Right, one more of your fitness center. Nice connection to the outdoors there. Not a treadmill inside. I'm not looking at Dr. All right, and then inside of your gymnasium. And then here are your wrestling mats too that drop down for competitive events, as well as your drop down batting cage. And the commons that connects that gymnasium and pool area. Lots of these, I think there's 16 or 17 of these custom graphics that are spread throughout the building. See a lot of logo and branding presence. And then the last pictures are of the pool here. Beautiful 8-lane pool, all filled up, ready to go. That video board that we were talking about goes right there.
All the rough ends are there for it.
I'm glad you pointed out the wrestling mats too, because there was a rumor that there wasn't going to be any wrestling meets in the new gym, and that was false information. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
I believe the wrestling room is only for practices, from what I understand. I mean, you can make that decision, but all the performance or competitions will be over there.
And they are new green mats.
Awesome.
All right, very good.
So I just want to mention one thing. I know you've seen a lot of these spaces, but as a quarterly report, this is something that you as the board, when you're getting asked questions, feel free to share this. This is the high school. That's why we did it this way, and just wanted you to be aware of what's in there. You have that electronically in your board packets, and we have hard copies, whatever you need.
Okay. So looking forward to the ribbon cutting in a couple of weeks here. I'm going to transition it over to Morgan, and then we'll talk a little bit about the finalization of the high school's finances in the budget for it.
Paul and Pat, just a question. We saw some pictures of like the science lab and those other spaces. Well, a typical room for core classes, are they all collaborative spaces too, like that? Like say English or social studies, are they all? Right, I missed it, what those rooms look like.
Yes, and I'll give you a hard copy of one of them.
Oh, I was just kind of waiting to see one, and then,
Okay.
that's okay, just, you can do it later, I just
Yep.
was
I'll bring it
curious.
over to you right after.
I don't know if there's desks and rows, or if they're all collaborative
A lot
spaces.
of them are tables.
Tables,
Tables and chairs, so that they can be pushed together, pulled apart, that type of thing.
okay, that's all right.
All right. So mine's not going to be as exciting as Paul's, unfortunately. Demo isn't very popular during the winter time. So I do not have any photos as of right now. We're on hold until June when abatement starts back up at the Malone and Annex. And just to kind of know where we are in the world with
Oh,
demo, we are going
I saw
to be
this one.
demoing the Malone and Annex along with doing the abatement, just so we can kind of show you that in relation to the North Star. Connecting to the new gym. Any questions on that? Not a lot of information right now, not a lot of updates.
Well, the big decision, and hopefully funding can come through to work that whole VHS like you had said.
Yes.
Well, in June timeframe, we're gonna have to make that quick change if funding is available for that. And I know you're pursuing that, Dr. Schmidt.
All right.
Thank you, Morgan. Mine will be a little bit longer, but not as long as Paul's, so. North Star, so same graphic here as we showed on the demo, just to kind of, like Morgan said, get you in the know in where we're at in the world. North Star is going up. This is an old photo. Maybe Bill can take me up again and we can get a little bit newer photo. So the existing gym does stay, the Malone Annex comes down, and working on that VHS, so. So good progress on the North Star. So from 6th Avenue, looking over, thank you, Patrick. At the front of the building, if you notice, we're kind of using a patio right now. That is going in still, don't worry. It's just not there yet, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So just kind of give you the big overview of the building. Once that Malone Annex gets out of our way, I'll be able to back up and get a fuller picture too. So as you move closer to the front entrance, you can see the building coming together. This was back in March, so it's a little couple months ago almost now. Moving along. As you come into the front entrance, you can see your main commons. This is where the kids will eat lunch, gather for different activities, maybe movie nights, that kind of thing. And as you move into the building, you walk into the back of the commons and looking back at the front entrance, kind of trucks and equipment in the way right now, but if you can picture it, all the cool new furniture and tables and booths and stuff will be there. So good. So up on level 2, we hop up there, and on the east side of the building, looking back at the informal learning area, so it's kind of open, collaborative learning situation. And then looking back the other way from the center of the building out towards that patio is your media center. Again, lots of shelving for books and everything for the kids as well. Some cool furniture to keep the kids interactive and collaborative. Popping back outside, so I just took from January so you can see the progress now, early April. So you can see we got our metal stud framing up and showing the cantilever of that south end of the building. And we're getting our dense glass sheathing on and brick ledges. And soon you'll start to see brick go on the wall.
It does seem like we don't make great advances like we did when we had the metal panels, like on the Wrenchen, where we could put quite a bit of metal panel up to enclose the building. On this one, first of all, once you go to 3 stories, a lot more wind load, a lot more structural to do, a lot more welding. If you've gone by there, you've seen the iron workers out there welding a lot of steel in place. They do that initially, then we get the metal studs up, and then we prepare all this for the masonry that's coming here shortly. So it takes a little longer to get the envelope done, but that's what you get when you do the 3 stories and you do the nice masonry finish that fits with that downtown urban environment.
So the next one here is your back of house loading dock area. And just looking kind of to the existing gym as well. So good progress on the metal studs and chipboard exterior sheathing. And then if you're wondering what that is your stair shaft. So right there, we're starting to enclose that building. This is from the south end. Again, once that Malone Annex is out of our way, we'll be able to back up and get a better view of this. But you can start to see the cantilever and how this is going to be framed out and kind of inset back and lots of glass so you can look out over the, hopefully, a nice green space on the south end. So here, this is where I'll explain a little bit about, in case you get any questions on the public of why we're building from the top down, because normally you would build bottom up, right? So in order to complete the structure and metal studs and envelope up on the upper level, we couldn't put the patio in yet because you couldn't put a big enough lift on there to get up to the top of the roof because of weight loads. So we're working from the ground level and up on the upper level and get as far as we can through the weather barrier, and then we'll bring the patio steel in and finish our building structure and envelope. Because it kind of looks kind of weird right now that we're just doing the top strip, right? So.
We do have all the steel on site for the patio. It's all sitting right out there where it needs to go up.
Yeah, good point. I think the only steel that we're waiting on is the main stair, but both stairwells and the patio steel, everything's on site. So moving around the building to the northeast corner here, just to kind of get a view of the north side of the building. Obviously, once we start getting metal studded here, you start to see that come along as well. And we're actually going to start brick right here on the northwest corner. And we're going to build a little mock-up right here and then wrap it around and start working the brick this way. So this is your link from the new building to the existing gym, kind of where the elevator used to be, or is, I should say. And then as we move into the gym, fresh new paint job, give it a little facelift, brightens it up, and working on logos right now. Sorry, don't have a photo of the logos, but next quarterly report, all of them will be done, so we'll get some good pictures of those too. So they're looking really nice.
And in that process, they now have a scaled piece of glass that they cut those logos into and project it with a projector on the wall. And your ADs and And the principals and Noel Schmidt was able to walk through and say, make it bigger, move it over here, got it right where you wanted it. And then we held those different locations around the gym. So it's really coming together well. It's gonna make a big difference, all those logos, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said, they're starting to look nice. The north wall of the gym is gonna have the Rock Ridge logo, the RR, and then the south is fiercely, I lost it. The south wall down there in the corner is the Fiercely United, so we got that sized and put on the wall just right. Like I said, it's
Hey, and Pete, before you leave that, just for the board, because people might be saying, what was wrong with the gym? Well, we did upgrade HVAC, mechanicals, some other things, but we're also changing it from Virginia gym to a Rock Ridge gym. So we're taking almost as much as we can, the blue colors out of the Blue Devils and putting in Rock Ridge colors. Plus, it looks really nicer, just newer paint, fresher, whiter on the wall. So that's part of the reason, not the full reason, why we've done this in this, because it's not a Virginia gym anymore, it's a Rock Ridge gym.
So on that note, I mean, I may get a question or two or somebody email me that may be watching this. Those scoreboards are blue, or are they going to be rebranded green?
nope, they're gonna be rebranded.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So just let the public know.
Yep, no, they're gonna get repainted, all four of them. There's two large ones on each end, and then the two auxiliary ones as well. And then also, the last thing we'll be doing is the gym floor. We'll be refinishing it, not replacing, but refinishing. So they sand it down, repaint, reseal, all Rock Ridge, so.
One thing too, I don't know how many board members know, but there were some structural issues. Each of these frames over here, there was cracking coming down the block wall, if any of you saw that. So this was all addressed quite some time ago, so you might have forgotten. We got in there early and did those structural revisions. That also kind of marred up the walls. So that was another reason to paint all of the walls, because otherwise, where we did that structural repair and that masonry crack filling, really didn't look that good. So it was another reason if you're asked.
And we should also let the public know that those four scoreboards can be rebranded branded in their name for just a small donation to Willie Spelt's office over here.
Yeah.
Good plug, Densey. So where's Willie?
Okay, that's all I have for North Star. Do you have any questions for me specifically to North Star? All right, we're gonna move right into budget.
So on the budget, this is currently where we are at. I'll go to the bottom line first and use this other laser. So this is what we have got spent to date. It's about 85% of the total budget. The 198,302,597 is our total budget. That is spent to date. And this is what 28,620,783 is what we have yet to spend. The majority of that North Star. And then some of those closeout items that Paul had mentioned on the high school. These are the SNPs of each project. So we have a large budget. If you've worked with us at all on the financial side, we have a spreadsheet that has all the breakdown of each of the projects. And we go over that with Spencer every month. And we input what he spent on the soft cost side and what we've spent on the hard cost side, and we reconcile those numbers. These are the summaries for each, which is the original budgets, and then the current budget, what we've spent to date, and what we have remaining to spend. And when we go through each of those, one of the key things that we were able to do is on the high school, close out all of those. All of those phase codes have been locked now, and all the change orders have been written, and that is a completed project at this point. Any questions on the overall budget?
I do. So it looks like, and we knew this before, that the Laurentian came in under budget by about 124,000, which was about 0.5%. But then the other ones are way over original budget. Seems like the high school is over 8 million, and the North Star is over 10.5 million. over original budget. So how do we reconcile those?
You brought that up before, and keep in mind, when you say over budget, when we add scope, then we add the funds that support that scope. So the budgets have been increased as we've gone along through that process, just terminology thing. So those revenue streams up above that we've gone through before, those get added to as you decided to add scope to various projects. So yes, the other ones, the projects have grown, obviously. Let me just go to this next slide. Just talking the high school, now I'm going to take it from as we finalize this project, we're at 0.3% of where, yes, the revised budget for the revised scope is at on this project. And we, as we had said, I think the last 2 or 3 quarters, we've been telling you, we're right about on. We're not going to save a lot of money. We're not going to go over the budget by a lot. And to be at 0.3% is really quite amazing. We dialed that in. We didn't cry wolf and hold too much money in contingency, and then you couldn't do other good things with the project. But we also didn't run over the budget and say, oh, by the way, I need $15 million to work. So I think that managing on a monthly basis with Spencer and working with your advisory team really paid off in that regard. And that's where we are at. I'm just going to take Paul's slide. So on the schedule, we are 100% complete on that. Expenditures is that 98. This little sliver right here are what we're holding for contractors to finish their punch list and to do those final things in the spring that Paul had mentioned, because it's just so wet out there, we can't come and spruce up the site and that type of thing. And we actually have a contractor here today doing punch list on the lockers, fixing some scratches that run the gym floor. I think some of you saw some of that, so we're getting that fixed this week as well, and doing some bleacher work out on the outside fields. So once they get that done, then we'll have Spencer release the dollars to them as well. And the contingency is 100% spent.
So that 0.3%, but that's on a revised project budget, so that must be on the current, it says current, because that's a revised budget on the slide before.
Yes, the total budget
Go to the slide before.
is 122.
Right, yeah. So all of those, that second column says Laurentian current, or all of them current, but you're saying that that is the revised budget, those numbers, which is 0.3% of the revised budget cost. So that extra money on the current budget, second column thing, how much of that is due to all the donations we got? And where did the rest of that money come from to increase that besides the IRRB money? Wasn't that dedicated just to the
North Star.
North Star?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, if you remember, and we've done this a couple times in the quarterly reports, and I think the best thing for me to do is give you that overall referendum budget, and I can give that to you. Remember, we added deferred maintenance dollars way back, and when we wanted to add some scope. And then the fundraising that Willie has done, he's in the back row back there, but I'd like to give him attaboys, over $1 million that he's gotten donated. As those were added to the revenue side, then that increased the budget for the construction. And the combination of those, there are a lot of line items that went into that, and I can go over that with you.
Okay. Some of that donated money, though, was designated and some was just to use as we needed?
Yeah, most of it, yeah, a lot of it did have specific purposes though, right, Willie?
Yeah, both though.
Yep.
Yes to both.
That's about 20, we're up about $20 million now at this point than what our original, I think you're going to talk a little bit later about, or maybe Spencer's going to talk a little bit about being able to use some funds that we couldn't use before, where the law changed, Spencer. Is that coming up later? Okay, thanks.
All right. Paul, you just got.
And he was all excited it was his last time. Stole his
He's
thunder.
got one more piece. I don't want to wear him out.
We're fine with skipping it.
North Star Elementary, you've seen this slide before. Schedule 40% complete, less than a year to go already. So you don't have to deal with me too much longer, only a year. Expenditures right in the ballpark now, 35%. I don't know if you remember the last time we talked, there was a larger gap there. We have closed that gap, so that's right about where we want to be within that 5 to 10% of schedule. So $37.5 million for the total budget and 13 million spent, 24 to go. Contingency, this is good news story. Nothing spent on contingency to date. And look how far along we are in the building. This is really good news. Not saying we're not going to spend any of it, because things do come up. But we've made it a long way on this project already, almost halfway, and haven't spent a dime of it. So we're in really good shape.
So I want to talk to that a little bit.
All right.
Because we know that in the past, like on the Laurentian and the high school, if you're over here or under there, we would reallocate funds, whatever we have to do, because it's one referendum, right? And then these are the individual 5 projects, including the admin building. You don't have that anymore at North Star. You got to come in under budget. So some things that we've done, lessons we learned, because we all get better each time we do something, from Laurentian to the high school to North Star. We've made design changes that on those other projects, we had to learn those hard lessons and work through those things, and some of them cost some dollars. We're able to do that, so that's a part of the success story, not taking any thunder away from Pete's ability to manage. But that is one of the things we were able to do. The other thing is, we've just been really diligent on the shop drawing process, and because we didn't have to hit this building running right away, we were able to go into the gymnasium, the existing, start that, and then really work the procurement process, because we're on the backside of the post-COVID situation, and Pete's really been able to work that. So that's really a good news story to not have any contingency spent at this point, because we're out of the ground, right? And that's usually where we spend money. But thank gosh, there isn't rock in downtown Virginia on that site. So that's a good thing.
Because we won't before June, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that you'll see some more activity across the street that isn't a part of our project. It's a part of the demolition of the Malone building for Virginia Public Utilities. So that's going to be taking place sometime in June. But just so you know, there's going to be a lot more activity around our site during that time. So, but just know that's a different contract, different owner. So.
And a different Malone.
Yeah,
So you have a Malone and they
Try to
have
keep
a
that one
Malone.
straight.
So when you hear the Malone is coming down, that's their Malone, which is across the street over at Virginia Public Utilities. Just across from the gym, right across the street. That's what they call the Malone. Ours is coming down a little later after abatement.
And we're using some of the same contractors too, so you can see that name around still. So, okay. All right.
Make it quick again. Not a lot of updates actually done since the last time that I spoke on this. Like I said, things will be wrapping up in June. As you can see, we have only spent $2,000 overall, so $48,000 in contingency for the Virginia campus. That's coming up, and any other future demolition projects. Right now, you can see there's a bit of a difference in the schedule and expenditures. The demolition that's taking place at the Virginia campus right now is going to be a little more intricate with all the handwork, saw cutting, so it's going to cost a little bit more. That's great.
And on that contingency, that is a net contingency. There are some allowances that you were able to credit back to contingency.
Yeah.
So we spent more than the $2,000, but then we credited back, and the net difference was $2,000. So that's a good story as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just to run briefly through the final amendment to the KA contract. I'm back. You thought I was done. All right, this is a good news story though, because with the finalization of the high school, you get money back. So the total funding to the project has not changed from amendment number 8 to amendment number 9. But with the finalization of the high school and locking down all those different columns, it's more like internal sliding around. So the total credit amount with the finalization of the high school is $48,000 returned to the Rockridge Public School District. So on the high school itself, remember how we were setting aside 3% every time funding was added to the project for general conditions, and we kept on saying, all right, when unspent, this will be 100% returned. So your savings on the general conditions that didn't end up needing to be used on the project was $108,000. That's a great news story. And then similar on the site services side of things, that's primarily the management time for the KA team. That's a credit of $27,000 back to the district. The reimbursables, just like the name suggests, those are items that pound for pound, every time a dollar gets spent, it just gets reimbursed. Those items are clearly laid out in the contract. And so that had a net add to it. And then the CM fee is the final 2% math on the total cost of the work. Really simple calculation. That's what it ended up balancing out to. So that's the total summary there. And this shows the detail, and it's impossible to read on the title card here. But these numbers are the values that are transposed onto the sheet prior to that, so you can see exactly where and on which projects some of the adjustments came from. Anything else to clean up on that? Okay, so unless there's any questions on the information, go ahead.
You knew I would have one. I know Carl Sanderson's CM fee is 2%, but in total it's 6%. Is that an ongoing, that other 4% for the architects and all those other? Because it wasn't the scope 6% and your part was 2%?
I believe the design is in the 6% realm.
Itself.
6.25, so the design is that. That's in the soft cost part of the budget, but yes.
And is that all, I mean, is that all done with, that 6%? Because there's no more, that's just the design then, that 4%?
The design and the construction administration, because they're here like every other week going through things, but yes, that's the design portion.
Okay, and we're still paying that out a little by little, but most of it has already been paid out?
I think are we 100% paid on that line item?
Very close.
Okay, all right, that answers my question, thank you.
But those numbers are included in what you saw.
Yeah, that's what I.
The commitment of the funds versus the paying, they're 100% committed in the budgets.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, thanks.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then what we would be requesting is a vote by the board to approve the deduct of negative $48,294 to the Kraus Anderson contract.
Okay, 4.2, can I get a motion for amendment number 9?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Director Yuan. Can I get support? Second by Director Dahl. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen
And ladies.
and ladies.
And Lee,
I'm not done yet, so you don't have to.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to 4.3.
Mike is firing up.
With the next one, oh, sorry. District Administration Building.
So just as a little preliminary while he's loading this up, as you know, I was here last time with Morgan and we went through the administration building mechanical. And one of the things that I made a mistake on is I thought the board was more informed on what we were doing in this building and why. And we basically took those lessons learned and I walked out with my tail between my legs from the last meeting because you voted it down. And I think the primary reason is you just didn't have enough info and information overloaded you. And I apologize for that. So we went back to the drawing board and we said, okay, let's go meet with the facilities committee and go into a lot of detail and walk through the site and really give them the download on what is in this scope and why we're doing it. And I believe the facilities committee has come back, and could you just give an update?
Well, after we're just reviewing all the work that's going to be done, the Buildings and Grounds Committee made the recommendation to move forward with phase one.
So who was at that facilities meeting? I couldn't make it.
Me, John,
Mike Hogue.
Mike Hogue,
Board members, yeah.
Sesto.
just me.
Just you and John?
And
Okay, you sat in for me. No.
No.
Who sat in for me?
nobody.
Nobody.
Okay. That's what I'm just saying, who was there?
Dr. Schmidt was there as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was there, Polly.
Yeah, well,
Don't forget.
don't forget you.
I just appreciate your time on that because, again, you got to have the information to make a good informed decision, and I appreciate that. So Morgan's going to not go into as much detail as we did with the facilities committee, but give you one more run through of, and we've got a couple added photos of the existing conditions of what and why we're doing this project. And take it away.
Alrighty. So first on the agenda, why this is necessary, why the mechanical upgrade is necessary. We'll go through the existing conditions. We'll go through some of the material that we reviewed last time with phase one, just the project layout, milestone schedule, bid results, those types of things. Something we've added in here is the phase 2 and 3 narrative, so we'll be able to dive deeper because that was where a lot of questions kind of stem from, what phase 2 and 3 actually was. Then we'll have the questions, and then we will be requesting approval after that for the approval of the phase 1 bids. Why is this mechanical upgrade necessary? Right now you have existing ground-mounted rooftop units that are at the end of their useful life. This then costs significant amount of dollars to maintain these units. This will also improve reliability, kind of tying back to number one. There have been several breakdowns which have costed the district money in turn. Moisture and mold issue in existing units. Once we pull up the photos of the existing conditions, you'll see more of what we're talking about there. The school board facilities committee has given us the direction to move the units inside. This will extend the lifespan of these units as well. This will improve the indoor air quality. You have students in here doing different practices. You have the wrestling, the golf simulator, talk of maybe a ski room for their storage, lots of different things going on in this building. Energy efficiency of new modern units. Your units are about 20 years old. These new units, your old units are about 20 years old. The new ones being brought in would improve that energy efficiency. And then improved heating and cooling controls. And also, there are integrated requirements for your tenant, Orthopedic Associates, and their project.
So one of the things we did on the facilities committee is we brought your chief engineer, Jim Andrick, in to just give a little update on what he had to live this last winter to keep these units running, just for Kraus Anderson and the district to be in the building. And he gave a good update. I think Director Addy, I think he gave you a good you guys were talking mechanical speed, and I think you got along well there. But I think that was a key piece that you needed to hear too from your perspective. We really need to cannibalize a lot of these units in order to keep the rest running until you do the phase 2 and 3, which we're going to talk in a couple of minutes.
Morgan, do we have, it says heating and cooling controls. Do we have air conditioning in this building now, or are we going to put it in, or is that cooling for other equipment?
So heating and cooling controls, right now the system that you have is a constant air volume system, so this will be a variable volume system.
What does that mean? That means air conditioning or
So
not?
you'll be able to control the heat and cooling in this building a lot easier. It'll be more manageable. Anything else to add to that?
Yeah, and I think what you're getting at is, it's kind of a term game that gets played, dehumidification versus air conditioning,
Okay,
right?
not air conditioning.
Well, dehumidification really is cooling, right? It is cooling, but they don't design it for the worst situations, so you don't pay as much for the cooling because you don't have the full capacity for a fully occupied building on the worst day of the year, which is the way they do the design for air conditioning. When you do dehumidification, which is also what you have in the high school with your chiller over there, you size that down, because let's face it, most of the school year, you don't need a lot of cooling. But what you need a lot of times is cooling over there, but you don't need cooling over here. It's very isolated on where you need cooling, and that's where the controls come in that Morgan's talking about. Because right now with the constant air volume, if Noel Schmidt needs heat in his office, everybody in here is going to get the same amount of heat, whether they want it or not, which means if there's a lot of IT in one of the rooms, it's going to get overheated. It's a back and forth fight as opposed to the variable air volume. You can isolate different zones that way. And the other thing is the controls will be tied back to your building management system. So your chief engineer can look on his phone and make changes on temperature and set controls from his house at night instead of coming down here, looking at things.
Well, dehumidification is different than air conditioning, and it's not, we aren't going to have air conditioning, it's dehumidification, which actually helps to cool things down.
Yes.
And then there's going to be controls in different parts.
It's the difference between sensible heat and latent heat. Okay?
Here we go.
Latent heat is the humidity that makes it warm.
Yeah.
Sensible heat is the temperature, bringing the temperature down once you reach the 30% humidity rate. So keeping the humidity out of the building will make it cooler, make it drier.
Okay, yeah, so we're just not going to have air conditioning throughout the thing.
Oh, there'll be air conditioning, you just probably won't notice it. It'll just be dry in here, that's all.
And that's key when you're, flipping through papers like you are. If you don't have some dehumidification, they start sticking together in the copy machines and that type of thing. Good question, though. Really, the difference between dehumidification and air conditioning, as we call it, is the quantity of what you're putting in for cooling. That you aren't putting the full bore of cooling in that will sit there unused the majority of the time, because you're not going to get that worst case high demand day. So why pay for it when you're not going to use it very often? Your worst day is going to be in July. How many people are in the school in July? So why pay for that, right?
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Yep, I have a question. So in the OA part, is that air return going to be different than the air return in all of the other parts of the building to keep up with, like, changing 10 times an hour and such?
Are you talking about because it's going to be more of a clinical
Correct.
facility?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be too much different. They're going to have their building management system is going to be tied into this building as well, so we'll be able to monitor that through there and make any adjustments.
And they'll be the ones responsible for doing that?
The school district, being that you guys are the landlords of this building, you have full access to all of those since you guys own the source of
Okay.
where everything's coming from.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
But there is, you bring up a good point. I just want to make sure it's clear. There are areas like the x-ray room that need to be a little different temperature. That'll have what's called a VAV box that has a separate thermostat and a heating coil going through it and a cooling coil. And if you want to make that room 50 degrees and then right outside and you want it 80 degrees, they can do that. They, Orthopedic Associates, paid for all of that. Everything within their space, they have paid for. The part that you are, as a landlord, like you had said, versus a tenant, what you are contractually obligated to, from what I understand, and Dr. Schmidt can set us straight on this, is just the source, like Morgan had said. So you have to provide the heat plant and the cooling plant and the power switch gear. But once it goes through the wall into their space, they paid for all that.
Okay.
So, does that help?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
So let me add one more thing, board members. So that means that if they decide to use their lights longer than us, they're paying for it. They decide to change their temperature, they're paying for it, not us.
Exactly. If they want to cool it down more, and that often happens in a clinical situation, they have a PT gym, I'm going to keep that a little cooler in the summer. They'll pay for that.
I've never laid on an x-ray table that wasn't cold, so I know that they're going to pay for that, so.
Right, existing conditions. You can see on this photo very well. This is all water or snow melt. This was recently taken, I believe, last week. The way the building is built is kind of on a low ground, and in relative to where the roof rooftop units that are ground mounted are set. This is one of the units right there, so you can see how that does not work very well for the longevity of these units. You can also see in this space how the snow has piled up right against one of the units. This happens in many cases. You'll see soon the enclosures that these units are in. It actually harbors the snow and harbors these conditions rather than keeping them out. So that's another one of the issues. You can see right here, we've got some moss growing on the units. This is kind of what I just talked about on the last slide. Once that snow piles into these spaces, you can kind of see where the exterior barriers are. It plugs up the air handling units, or I suppose restricts the air going into them. These are the barriers I am talking about. You can kind of see this brick one is falling apart. Can't say this is the prettiest thing I've ever seen either. Now, when we were talking about Orthopedic Associates versus the mechanical room, this is where Orthopedic Associates would tie into that mechanical room. So this is the wall that would divide the two spaces. Everything west on this wall, Orthopedic Associates has paid for. They're actually working in there daily, getting their duct up, and the tinners are working hard in there. This is kind of our original conceptual design that we went through when this conversation started, so I like to reference it each time. The last time there was kind of a question, phase 3, what is phase 3? It's going to be in the center part of this building, little different mechanical scope, that's why it's broken up a little differently. All right, so this just shows a little bit on the layout of where things are happening within the building. So the southwest corner, we have Orthopedic Associates. The new mechanical room would go in the center of the southern portion of the building. You have the wrestling area on the southeast side, golf simulator area, district offices. You can see loading dock here, and this is where you would enter to that front canopy entrance. Phase 1 project layout, just a reminder, you are creating a whole new mechanical room with a built-in boiler room as well. Those will be fire-rated walls due to code. You'll have 2 energy recovery units, 2 air handling units, 4 boilers, 2 water heaters, and added walls to create the fire-rated boiler room. Also reconfiguration of the sprinkler system within the space. The work that will happen on the roof, again, this is minimal due to moving everything inside the building. You'll have the main things are the roof-mounted condensers, which do have structural steel to support those units, being that they're going to need some extra support on the roof.
We had a lot of discussions between Director Addy and I. He was needling me on this. Why put the units on the roof and then you have to get on a ladder to go up and service them? It's near and dear to his heart, right? Because of what he does for a living. And we weighed that with, again, this building should be 1.5 to 2 feet higher than it is right now. That a lot of times to save money when you're building a building, they'll cut out that extra buildup of sand and then you fight it the rest of your life. So whenever you do projects, put your buildings high and get positive drainage away, and your life is really simplified. Because it's so low, as you saw that water, I took those pictures the day that I walked through with the facilities committee, and it was worse than that previous to that. But because of that, we weighed, okay, what's the distance from the air handler to the actual condensing unit, and what does that cost for that extra piping? And then I've got to raise that up, right, to get it up out of the water and pay extra money for that. And we're kind of trading the structural steel to put it on the roof with that extra piping and that extra concrete to raise it up. So yes, we looked at that, considered that, talked about it with Director Addy and the facilities committee, went with this because it does put it right over the air handling unit, and that roof is a low slope. It's only 1/4 on 12, so it's easy to walk on up there. It's not really a hazard, but it is a little cumbersome to get up there on a ladder.
And then again, just to remind you of the phase 1 bid results, $1.2 million was the total of all the bids. Again, the largest number being that combined mechanical scope of $898,000, which includes all of this listed. the new water heaters, the 4 new boilers, new air handling units, the condensers, any roof patching and insulation, any associated plumbing and duct work, mechanical control work, so we can control that through the building management system, and then all associated concrete work as well. Milestone schedule for phase 1, hoping for board approval today. Project start would be in May, and then substantial completion, we're shooting for September, but it's going to depend on lead times on mechanical equipment. All right, so phase 2 and 3 narrative.
Yeah, so under the, you said you wanted info, here you go. And we did them on 11 by 17 because some of these plans are hard to read. On the back part are all the units because there were a lot of questions on type of units and such, Director Addy, so I wanted to give you the preliminary design. You can look as much as you want or you can throw this away, but I want to give you the information so if you get asked questions, you can look those up. This is where they're at today with the design. They're going to the next phase so that we can get it priced. Regardless of how this phases out, just so you know, which one, yep, is we are going to complete the design, we are going to price it, and then we'll come back to you, and regardless of where you're at for funding, at least you know what it costs that day. And then you can say with confidence, that is about that much money to do phase 2 and that much to do phase 3. Really, it gives information to Spencer about the budget and Dr. Schmidt on how to do that budgeting, okay? But that's some good information. It shows those condensing units, it shows the air handlers, and it's got a lot of data in there, a lot of efficiencies in it. Those energy recovery units, if you air-to-air heat exchangers in your house, some of you have those?
Yep.
So the whole idea is that you want to turn over your stale air that's full of carbon dioxide from when you're breathing out, and when you breathe that out and you want to take that 75, 80 degree air in the winter and push it out to a 30 below air outside, you preheat that 30 below air that's fresh coming in and you transfer that heat. They don't touch each other, they're through a coil that way, through an aluminum type of a coil. And what that does is you gain that then, you pull the heat off that, and that 70 to 80 degree air is now maybe 45 to 50, and the 30 below air is maybe 10 to 15 degrees above zero, and now your units don't work as hard. So that's pretty common in pretty much every modern commercial system and even residential system. So you don't have that right now. You have a unit outside that's in 30 below weather, that every time it kicks on, it's got to heat up the duct that's out there, even though it's insulated, but it's all been saturated with water pretty much. So big difference in efficiencies on these. All right, real quick on phase 2 and 3.
Now, this is everyone's favorite topic, so I'll try not to bore everyone too much, except that we can talk after if you want.
No, I did all my talking at the committee meeting.
Okay, so mechanical demo, what's really happening here is big picture, remove any ductwork, diffusers, and accessories associated that will not be reused. Phase 3, we have removing of all of the rooftop units that are situated around your building on the exterior. Reason we did this in phase 3 is because along with that would go the concrete slab. And after you take out that concrete slab, you're going to need some site work and some topsoil to replace those. It makes more sense to get a contractor here once rather than invite them back for slab spaces.
Usually you get some pretty good salvage out of those because of the copper and the type of things that are in the units. But if you don't have enough of them, it isn't worth them bringing a truck in and a forklift to salvage those and haul them away. So you get that credit when you bid that phase, because that mechanical contractor would have that salvage contractor crediting his price. So his price might have been here, he did the salvage, now it's here, so he can be competitive, he or she. I just want to point this out to you. We talked about this quite a bit in the facilities as well. You can see, I know it's hard to see, but you can see the ductwork underneath here. That's the existing ductwork in this building. And very typical is that they've got this ground-mounted rooftop unit. It feeds the ductwork and it comes out here and then it distributes in all these different branches. And one of the things Director Addy had was Well, you're gonna tear all that out and then put it all back in again, isn't that a waste? And no, the design team does understand what he's saying, we're gonna put units here, we're gonna run one duct out and hook in right inside of where that, these units are, there's 3 runs right here, and reuse all of this ductwork. So we're not gonna take all these ceilings out and all of these diffusers, they're gonna be fed over where that outside wall is, just so you know. Okay?
All right, the mechanical piping, that will take place in phase 2. Plumbing, some minimal plumbing, essentially floor drains, and then they have given the option to do a like-for-like replacement of your fixtures within your bathrooms as well.
So we'll price that, and we'll do it as an alternate, and we gotta make sure that's an alternate.
Yeah, we'll do that as an alternate, just so you know, while they're in there, while the contractor's here, what that would cost you as the district. Fire protection, we'll work through the fire protection just to make sure that it's up to code and that it fits for your building. Roof plan, just wanted to show you what you'd have up on the roof. There are 2 more condensers being added, that is the main thing, and they will have those structural supports as phase 1 does as well, it'll be the same detail.
And we're going to improve the exhaust out of the bathrooms. It's a couple of these ducts up here. Right now, your bathrooms don't turn the air over, and I'll just leave it at that. They need to.
Phase 2 and 3, larger mechanical equipment list, 2 air handling units, 2 condensers, and 2 energy return units, and those will be provided within the phase 2 scope. There are some other scope items that are relative to the items that are being added into the building and replaced. Typical disconnections of pipes and ducts, and the concrete soft piping, masonry infills, it's really similar things to phase 1.
On the masonry infills, we do have, you remember the front canopy, we lobbed that off and then patched the brick in, so we found pretty close to a perfect match on your brick. So we'll have to buy some brick just so that we can take the duct out of the wall, then insulate the envelope, and then put that brick back in, so when you do remove those units, it won't be real obvious that you have these 10 holes all the way around your building.
And then phase 3 is very similar, just on a smaller size and scope. Funding sources, Spencer, you can speak to this if you'd like as well. 2 sources that funding for this project would happen through, so deferred maintenance, LTFM dollars, and then capital funds.
And the technical.
Oh, and then technical. Spencer, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, there was a spreadsheet in the packet. I think that showed kind of where we're at currently, where we're estimating for revenue in those items for next year. Just remember LTFM, those dollars are going to decrease here as we bring in the newer buildings. Remember LTFM, not only the number of students we have, but also how old our buildings are, and how much revenue we get. So we will see a decrease there. We do have the funds to be able to do this project at this point. It does deplete a lot of our LTFM funds. We will have to submit the plans to the state just to make sure everything's good when you approve it. And basically what that is to see how much would go LTFM, how much would go to the taconite deferred maintenance fund between those 2 items. Just want to double check, make sure everything's good with the state.
So one of the things.
Hey, Pat, can I just add one thing? Spencer's being very modest right now. Members of the board, you need to know, this guy's been thinking for years about this. This is not something that he just started thinking about last month. How are we going to pay for the gym in Virginia, the rebranding of it? How are we going to pay for some of this stuff? This has been years where he's been thinking, where he's been knowing this might come up to the board. He's been setting aside. We've been trying not to spend money in certain areas. This is years of thinking on Spencer's part. This is not just something that he just dreamed up in the last month. So I just want the board to know that.
You know, just a caveat on that, this building, you didn't buy this building for this building. I mean, really, we've put together the plan when we were way back on the high school design, we looked at possibility of putting district admin offices over there, if you remember that. And the cost of that and where things were at in the market, it's like, man, that's just too much money to be spending on new district admin building. And is it good to have it connected right in the high school? I'm sure you would like them across the parking lot. But anyway, you bought this building because you wanted the land, not because you wanted this building. Now, when you did that, though, you've done some great things to utilize this building with the wrestling and with the golf and with all the other activities you're doing here. But those dollars that you saved by not building brand new attached to the high school and what we're spending over here last time when we came through in the amendment and what you're spending now, it's a fraction of what you would have paid if we would have built this on brand new over on the other building. So just to add context of the history, because not all the board members were here during that time, just wanted to bring that up. And the other thing is the general fund, the operating budget, what pays teachers and education, none of those funds are currently, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Spencer, but none of those funds are being put into this project. And then the next slide, I stole Morgan's momentum there. She was going to talk a little more on what Spencer was saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Spencer hit on this pretty great. Essentially, the summary of this slide is right now you're at a sweet spot. In the past, you've had kind of an increase of that funding maybe because of being in some older buildings and not having a lot of newer facilities. After this year, we're going to be on the opposite side. We're going to be in newer existing buildings and not really in the older buildings. That's a summary of this slide.
The key word being occupied, okay? You have to occupy the way the calculation is done. I'm going to keep looking at Spencer, he's the expert. Back to the strategy that he's been doing for years here. You have to be occupying a building. You're occupying Evelyn, even though you're going to move those high school students over here to the new high school. You've still got students from Laurentian in Franklin, right? And I think that facility is occupied then because the heating plant feeds from over in the high school side. So you're going to get a good calculation for that time period that gives you the most LTFM funding you're going to have for a long time, because then you start down this other side, because once you do move out of Franklin into North Star, now you can't count that square footage, and that's a lot of square footage over in Evelyn right now. You lost the square footage in Gilbert because there's nobody there, so that comes off. But I think there's a delay in that, because isn't this done throughout the year, Spencer?
Yeah, so this, you approved the LTFM funding when you approved the budget. So when you submitted last summer, you're submitting for the 24 school year. It's always kind of a year later. And the magic number is 35 years. You get 100% of the LTFM funds when your average billing age is 35. Our average billing age was 80 before we moved into it. So we were well above that 35. We still have older building relatively in Parkview. Like you said, we're still over at the old Franklin or the North Star Elementary next year. And so those numbers will continue to keep us probably above that 35. And I was even more conservative in that spreadsheet, and I put it at 25 to see how it's all going to shake out with square footage. And we'll know that this summer. So I was conservative, I think, in those numbers as well. We should maybe even get a little bit more in LTFM, but I always make the error on the side of less.
And as you come down this time frame of 2004 and later, you're not going to need as much deferred maintenance either, because you've got newer facilities. So that makes a difference as well. So last thing on the funding. School boards, and I'm just going to generalize, are very reluctant to spend money on administrative buildings because it's put the money, and the taxpayers want you to put the money into the education, into the students. You've got a unique situation here that you've got a building that came with the land, and you do have classroom student activity within the building, and you really got to deal with this situation, because if you don't, these units are going to break down, and then you're going to have temp units coming in here, and you're going to spend a lot of money on it. So to take advantage of this 2023, like Morgan said, sweet spot for funding, and given your situation, that's why we've gone to this three-phase piece here.
Alrighty, so I'm just about done. I'd like to open it up for any questions before we ask for approval on these, on the bids for phase one.
So when you're talking about no general fund money, are you just talking about this project? Or are you talking about the whole referendum project?
Referendum, I don't think we've used any general fund dollars at all.
I thought we used some when we,
Some capital, but not.
Not general
Sorry,
fund?
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Oh.
some capital funds, but not general fund. Spencer?
There's been no general fund dollars.
so when we built the garage for ERATs, that was capital money?
Yes, that can come out of this project.
And then when we had to add the lighting for the ball fields, did that come out of capital money?
Correct.
Okay,
That was capital.
okay.
Yeah, no funds from the general fund at the time to pay for any construction.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Okay.
At this time, we ask for approval of the phase one mechanical upgrades to the Rockridge District Administration Building.
Okay, so 4.3, can I get a motion to approve
I will
mechanical?
move that motion.
Motion by Director Lotiger,
Support.
by Director Reardon. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Motion passes 6-1. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
this-
you.
Hey Pat, this letter is from Orthopedic Associates. Can you just kind of, just let them know that it really
Oh,
didn't
yes.
fall in our lap?
He left that up there.
Yeah.
Yes, we will let them know right away and we'll expedite the ordering of those units.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks for letting me do the redo.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pat. 4.4, consider moving forward with the 1404 building with Vita. Who's given that report?
I'll do the summary, and then we'll probably have to have Spencer explain your three options for it. But first, this is what we're asking the board to do is not to vote on whether you're going to buy the 1404 building, but whether you want to continue and engage VEDA in negotiations for the 1404 building. That's what we're going to ask you. And the answer is a simple yes or no. That's it. And the details will come later. But we know you need a little bit of front-loaded information. And so the 1404 building, it's the one directly diagonal across from where we are. There's been a number of businesses in there over the years. VEDA, which is a unique institution, agency. It involves the Evelyn and Virginia Economic Development Committee separately from that one, and the IRRR. It was created to manage some buildings that were here. The 1404 was one of them. 1402 is another one, but we're not talking about the 1402 because at one point in time, there was a vision for a whole bunch of businesses up on this stretch. That did not come to fruition. And the construction stopped after the 1402, 1404, and this building that we're in right here. We've known about the 1404 building for a long time. We have, different people have had different thoughts about it. Why would the school board even consider looking at the 1404 building? The first reason is it's part of the campus. When you're looking at the overhead map, it is right smack dab in the middle of everything. And so to protect your interests, do you want to acquire it? The second reason why you might want to acquire it is because there's about 200 parking spaces on that property, currently paved over. It is right across from the football stadium, track stadium. So if you're attending an event at the stadium, would you like to park there? Absolutely. It's much closer than parking in Laurentian or parking in the high school and then walking there. So there's an advantage in the parking lots. The third reason why the school board might want to engage and acquire this one is because the reality is we have 3 different transportation facilities scattered throughout the district. We have a larger one in Virginia, we have a smaller one in Evelyn, then we have another smaller one over in Gilbert. Right now, one possibility for that 1404 building is to convert 2/3 of it into a transportation hub. What would happen then, we would close Gilbert, we would close Evelyn down, we would sell the buildings to someone. You could take the money you got in selling those 2 buildings and then roll it over to pay down whatever you agreed to as a purchase price for the 1404 building to make that a little more manageable. Why would you consider making that a transportation hub? One is, it's right there. The Laurentian element is right there. The high school is right here. The majority of our kids are going to be in the high school Laurentian. They're here. And so it's much handier for custodians who are driving. They just have to go from the Laurentian or the high school, then go to the building, get in the vehicle, and then drive, drop it off. They could go back to work because we have a lot of custodian drivers. Then we have some people who are just bus drivers. Right now, they're currently, this happens. A custodian is working, time for them to drive the bus. They drive to Gilbert or they drive to Evelyn. They drive the bus somewhere around, then they go back to park the buses in Evelyn or Gilbert, and then they go back to work at a district building. So I asked Mike Hogue to figure out, it seems like there's a lot of time we're losing there, and he's figuring that very conservatively with mileage and everything else, we're losing 2 or 3 hours a day in custodial time just because of where the transportation buildings are right now. And it's probably costing you $10,000-ish a year just because we're paying custodians mileage to get to where the facilities are.
How much was that? I'm sorry.
$10,000.
Okay.
That's paying mileage because we need to pay them mileage
Right.
to get there. The other reason you might want to consider it, 1/3 of the building is more finished look, and I think most of you had the opportunity to be in the building. We could put an ALC there. Because we have high school kids here, we do lose kids to various institutions, kids who are struggling in school, and we do have some kids, everyone has them, that they're struggling in a regular school environment, and for a variety of different reasons, they go to a different type of schooling. We could start one there, or talk to the NLC about one, and then we could have kids in that 1/3 of the building there. And there's a plus to that because we have teachers who are in the high school, they could simply walk across the road and be in the building and teach some courses. And kids, if they wanted to take a course, they could simply be in that building, walk across the road, go in the high school, take a course, and go back. So those are the 2 primary things that the board might want to consider as far as why you would use the building and want to get a hold of those buildings. Now, I'm going to pause and point out that I know that we asked Kraus Anderson to do a building facilities assessment. You have access to that. Since you're not making a decision on do you want to buy it or not, this is just for your information right now. I'm sure we'll be talking about that later. But as of this minute, they did not find anything that was in immediate need of repair. So there's no reason for us to immediately go in there and need to fix the HVAC or something. In addition to that, you've got some building specs for those of you who love blueprints, so you can see exactly what was there. Now, how would you pay for this? And, well, first of all, how much is it? We would have to engage VEDA in negotiations, and if you say yes, I would suggest that you decide upon 2 board members, for example, to meet with them and talk with them negotiate about a price, what would be involved in that. So that would be the process there. And then how would you pay for it? Spencer, do you want to kind of go over the first document, the one that says Capital Fund 05 estimates? How would you possibly pay for it?
So that spreadsheet is the one I alluded to when we were just talking about the HVAC system. You can see what kind of funding we have what we're looking at the end of the 24, or end of 23 year, we'd have about 568,000 in operating capital, left over 1.4 million in LTFM, and about 600,000. And then I did look out one more year where we would be in all of those estimates, and this is before what you just approved at that 1.2 million, so that's not included on this sheet. So we'd be about 590,000 left in capital. Taking out that 1.2, we'd still have about 700,000 in LTFM funds and 888,000 left in TAP. So that's kind of the Fund 5 categories that we have. So then I was asked what are some options we could do to purchase a building such as this? So I tried to put together a few things. There's probably more options that we could look at, one of the things I thought is maybe we can set up a 10-year payment plan on this and pay it over 10 years. Take $85,000 annually out of capital. We still have enough capital to do the things we need to here, but still go ahead and make that purchase. If we were to put in an ALC into that building, we could utilize the lease levy authority that the school board has for 1/3 of that building. If it was 1/3, it's 2/3. So then only 57,000 would come out of capital each year, and 28,000 would come out of the lease levy. So that'd be another option. The third option, I don't know if we'd want to even look at this, if we want to learn more about it, do it. I had contacted Ellers, who helped us do the bonding, and asked them what are some options you can do to purchase a building. And they brought up this one. They said, back when we sold the bonds, there's statutory limits on what you could put into a construction bond. And what our voters authorized was more than that statutory limit. So we never went out for the entire limit. So there is additional funds that the board could opt to go get a bond for, to utilize for construction or purchase, things like that. That amount is 13.5 million. If it's something you want to learn about, because I don't know a whole lot about it, I would invite Ellers to come up here and explain the whole thing to us, how it would work. Can we still do this? What laws changed that allowed the limitation to increase? So that is just another option that if you want to learn more about it, just let me know. I'll contact them and invite them up for a working session or something that they can talk more about that to us. So those are kind of the options, other than if we want to come up with 850,000 or 500,000 or for whatever maybe come up enough time to.
And let me go to the elephant in the room for the board members, because I know you're hearing it from the public and about budget reductions, balancing the budget. All of the funds we're talking about are categorical funds that you as a school board, and you've heard me say this before, you have way more rules than a private business does. Private business can move money around any way they want. You can't. So these funds are categorical funds. You can only use them for certain things. So the funds that Spencer was talking about, you cannot pay salaries on that. You cannot pay benefits. You cannot add staff. You cannot do anything like that. There are very strict rules on what you can do. And this is very difficult for folks to understand. And I know you hear about it all the time, but these funds that Spencer is saying, you do have money in them, and that's because Spencer's been doing due diligence. He's been doing his job, saving money, because this day was going to come. You have the money. It's in categorical funds. Some of these things you don't need to do right away. Some of these fix-ups can be done in the next 1 to 5 years, and then the money comes back in, it replenishes, because that's the way the funding works from the state of Minnesota. But the categorical funds, I get it. I know you hear about it. And so at this point, more discussion on.
Okay. So can I get a motion to move forward with 4.4 in expressing our interest in possibly purchasing the 1404 building, possibly purchasing?
I'll move.
Support, Reardon.
Okay. Coleman, Dahl. Any more discussion? 4.4?
Yeah, I do have a little bit. Who deemed the building structurally sound? Just because you had said that it was considered.
South Anderson did.
Okay.
It's on the
Oh,
packet.
okay. I missed that. Okay, thanks.
They hired some contractors to look at the building.
So, my thoughts are, we went this route, the same route with Orthopedic Associates. And the board said, well, there's no harm in talking, and let's just move forward and keep talking. And then all of a sudden, the lawyers had all kinds of papers written up, and boom, it comes back to the board. And then we went through with it. And I know there are other board members that aren't on this board right now that had concerns too about the whole thing. So I think this is a little risky for us to do this, because who knows what? It's almost like giving an orange light that's going to be a green light, not a red light later. Personally, I don't think we can afford this building. I don't think we need it. I think we're just overspending, and we don't even know the total cost to this. First of all, $850,000 estimated.
This is not a purchase agreement.
No,
This is
I know,
just a-
I know, but you know what? Why waste everybody's time? I think in the end, we're going to find out it's going to be so, and it's an I think, okay? But we are spending money like water, and do we really need this just because it's in the middle of our campus? And you know, I would love to have had a garage when we built our house and our upstairs finished, but we couldn't afford it. You do things, you know, piece by piece, and we don't know where we're going to be down the road. We don't know what all of this stuff is going to cost us. And when we had that walkthrough, Virginia said that, or Britt C. Ben said that the assessed value was over 1.2 million. And so we're using 850,000. She also said that they had a buyer and they were waiting on us to make some kind of a thing. So if you're just going to say, well, let's just keep thinking about it, that's not fair to a lot of people. It's wasting time. And my bottom line is, this is way too expensive for us.
but I don't think I don't think the 850,000 is the actual price, because we were offered years ago for a lot cheaper. And even at that cheap price, that building never sold. Maybe because there's a lot of paperwork that the city of Evelyn and the city of Virginia are going to have to figure out who owns that building. Does Evelyn own it? Does Virginia own it? Do they still owe the IRRB for it? I mean, does IRRB still got their fingers in it?
Well, you know,
But we would never purchase a building that had that much baggage attached to it. I'm sure we'd get clear title to it before they could sell
I
it.
understand that a lot of that baggage, that federal lien has been transferred to the 1402 building. And you know, Bill, if they already have a buyer and they're asking 1.2 million for it,
I don't think.
They don't have a buyer.
Yeah.
They don't have a
Yeah,
buyer.
they did. They
had an offer.
They had someone interested in
They
it.
had someone
They did.
interested in it.
But they had-
But
There's someone, a buyer who's interested, they don't have any purchase agreement. Vita, as far as I was told, really wants to work with us. I'm interested, not only because of the parking lot, which is major, but our football field is partially on their property. So that's something that we'll have to deal with. And if we don't own it, we don't know who will buy it and who will be there. And with this school campus, that makes me uncomfortable. I'd rather have control of the building. And it sounds feasible. It sounds like it makes sense. And if we can sell our other busing garages and whatever, and if we have the money, which seems like we do, it just makes sense to me.
Bill, the one thing I would add, we're just going through an exploratory.
Right.
And we can find out lots of the questions the negative questions or the questions that are unanswered, we can find out in this process. It just tells the Evelyn and Virginia, whoever it is, Vita or whatever, that is in charge of that we are still interested and we have to go through the process.
Give us a sell price.
As 4.4 states here, moving forward with discussions on the 1404 building, not like a purchase agreement or anything like that.
But also, Noel, if we did do, one of the options is to have an ALC over there, that would also save us money, correct?
It conceivably could, because every student who leaves this district and goes to another school, and we add about $10,000 a year. So currently, for example, as of this minute, we have about 30 kids plus who are in the NLC ALC program. They're from Rock Ridge. ERATS has a significant number of kids who used to belong to Rock Ridge also.
And if we do that and pull out of the ALC and have our own, what does that do with our cooperative program? We have the most kids in there, the ALC, NLC, and they're trying to make plans of their own of what to do and if they need to expand or not or build. And they've got legislation in the hopper too for some of their plans. And so then we would need more administrators for that. And, you know, there's a lot of ifs. And again, I just want to repeat, we went down the same road with Orthopedic Associates, and all of a sudden we were presented with like, well, you can't, you know, all this work has been done and here's an offer you can't refuse, and boom. So
I think it's, going back to the Orthopedic Associates, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the students. It's a great learning opportunity, and it's something that I think is really going to benefit the career academies.
well, everybody has a different opinion, and if they're getting rent-free for
I'm giving you
25 years and an option
They're really getting a good deal.
5 or 10 years after that, that's a really a good deal.
We already voted on that, so.
Well, I'm just saying, that's,
To me, this is different, but I guess, because, yeah.
So 4.4, any more discussion on 4.4? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
no.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Moving on to 5.
Hey, can we pick some board members to talk on behalf of the board?
I'll go.
I'll go.
Oh, I'd like to
many?
go too.
So we'll have just 3?
Yeah.
Well, I think you're, she's a likely one being in
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I
business.
Okay, so we
agree.
can have 3.
Okay.
You want 3 or do you want 2?
Three is good. I think
Karen.
we're good, Bill.
Okay, so it'll be me, Tim, and Nicole.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, so item 5, improve the, get a motion to approve the consent. We added an item,
We added that to
the reports, okay.
reports. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as
By Director
presented.
Reardon,
Support.
supported by Director Lotiger.
I want some pulled for discussion, please.
Okay, all right.
5, 7, and 9.
Okay, hang on. 4 now. Are we going to pull for discussion and vote, correct?
Correct.
4, 5, 7, and 9 for discussion. Is there anything else?
Pull 14, please, for discussion.
5.14 for discussion.
Oh, good, I had that one circled too.
Okay. Anything else on the consent agenda? Okay. Okay, so the motion by Reardon. We have support by Director Lotiger to approve the consent agenda as amended with discussion completely after on 4, 5, 7, 9, and 14. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, go ahead, Director Sorkin, can you speak to 5.4?
Okay, 5.4 and 7 and 9 are all related. So we have one retirement of this custodial general maintenance driver, and that's the same position as the other 2.
You're talking 4.
4 and 5, 4 and 7.
4 and 7, okay.
Okay. And so we have one resignation, and so that, a retirement, that leaves an opening. And then we have 2 recommended for hire of the same job description and same job. So I'd just like to have a little more information on that.
Noel, you want to speak to that?
Sure. Here's what I know about this school board. We had a custodian, Gary, who was doing a long-term sub job, and he was not a full-time hire. He was strictly a sub job, and so he was in that job. And then he was in that job because we had a vacancy there, but we didn't know what to do with it, so we just put a sub in there. And then we had a retirement from number 9.
Yep.
And so they interviewed and they posted for the position. And the position, Lynn, number 7, got the position because she's in the ASME unit, and there's certain rules and protocols, and so she got the position. And then because we got the retirement from Guy recently, then we were moving, talking to Mike Hoag. They did an interview with him. We'd like to hire Gary at the same time also. We posted it. They interviewed for it. Both of them were. And so we actually have 2 vacancies right now. And so that's why the recommendation is here to hire 2 custodians.
So we have 2 vacancies. One is going to be the retirement of Guy, right?
Mhm.
And then you said that Gary was filling in the long-term sum for him, for Guy? Or for another position?
Another position.
Okay, that makes more sense. And then because Lynn is already in the unit, that would be, number 7 would replace 9.
Yes.
And then we were having a vacancy with a long-term sub, and that would be Gary.
And that would be Gary.
Four. And then you had pulled it from the last meeting for this meeting. There was some.
Well, I didn't pull
No,
it.
you did.
I can't pull an item from an agenda.
No, the last time, we had Gary Coppola on the agenda, and you pulled it.
Yeah, you did. You did pull.
And I just wondered what the change was between now and then. Maybe you just had to find out more.
Oh, that one would be because there was a meeting with ASME we had coming up.
Okay, about his position or something?
It was about that specific position, yes.
Okay, and that's been solved
That's been solved, yes.
with the union, okay?
Yep, with
So really what we have is Lynn going into Guy's. Lynn's open, and then we're going to put Gary into,
Yep. It is not an additional custodian.
correct? Okay.
Holly, are we good on 5.4, 5.7, and 5.9?
Yeah, but not 4, 7, and 9. But now we had this,
Or
number 5, yeah, 4, 7, and 9, those are all related, and that's been explained. So we had number 5, hiring Amanda Matheson.
5.5, that would be.
5.5, yeah. We had that on, and I asked for it to be pulled last time it was, but it's back on. So I'm wondering about this. It's a full contract with benefits and everything, coming into our family, so to speak. But there were minutes last year, the minutes said that we were hiring her from February of this year to the end of June. In fact, it's going back to last year and going through 2024. So we've got we already made a decision for, like I say, February to June, and that's one question. Now we want to backdate, and it sounds like we would be giving back benefits and back salary from last year. That doesn't make sense to me. Second of all, did we post and advertise for this position? And if we didn't, I think we should have, because there might be other people in the area within our own district that might be qualified, might be interested, could do the same thing. We don't know the qualifications. We have no qualifications. Maybe we have some licensed people that might like this job. You talked about before some clerical, that we were talking about eliminating 3, but we might only have to eliminate 1, but they would have some different duties. We don't know the program, so this person wouldn't be teaching the school, the summer school, or during the school year. Who would the instructors be? How are they? Bill, I'm sure you showed him my email back to you when you asked me if all of my questions were answered, but these are some of the things.
Oh, no, I have not.
Oh, well, I assumed you did, so if you didn't,
No, I just asked him where we were sitting with 5.5.
yeah.
We put it back on the agenda.
So, I mean, there's so many questions that I have that I've just spoken, and probably a few more. So if you can remember them and answer them.
Yep, here's the story on this one. And I'm also speaking on behalf of the activity directors right now, because this is coming through community ed. So this is the Y after school care, and you asked what had changed. Well, the YMCA here closed its doors. They used to run this program, so it stopped. So the program was over. All of the programs were over. So this individual Amanda had been one actually running the program. She was hired, but it would always come here, but it was working through the Y. And so our activity directors have looked at this, how can we keep the program going? And so they would like to run this through community ed. This is not an AFSCME position. This is not a teacher position. I believe they did post it, and they are recommending that we hire her, and it would be on a contract, individual contract, just like many of the folks who work in this building are on individual contracts. And they've looked at the numbers, and I've talked to both of them, and they've said that this program breaks even. So this program, they're telling me that you would not need to be subsidizing this program. The fees that come into this program, that parents want to have their kid in this program, it will pay for her salary. And so they would like to hire her because she knows the program. She's run it for years. They're very comfortable with her running it. The only difference would be the Y isn't involved. So we would, in essence, be picking up the program and running it through our community ed rather than through the Y.
And
That's what's different.
they came and presented to us. She was
Yep.
actually here as well.
Yeah.
So we have a financial history that we haven't had to subsidize.
Yes, I asked them 3
Yeah.
times, our activity directors, can we afford this? Is this going to break even? And they said, we run it this number of ways, Schmidt, it will.
Because she was here maybe 2 years ago, even?
The individual was just here.
It was just after.
I think within a month or.
Yes.
Oh, I
Maybe
thought
2 months
I
she
thought I
was here.
remembered it further out, because they were talking about the Y closing due to COVID and stuff like that. Am I remembering this right?
Yes, you're remembering it right. This is the kind of thing that we've encouraged community ed to do, which is branch out, have more programming, more programs available for our parents and our kids in the area. So that's the background of this position.
So you said you posted and advertised?
I believe they did, yes.
I believe.
If you want to wait,
Oh, did we have any other?
Do not want to wait.
Did we have any?
I
other
believe
people?
they did, and I believe they interviewed.
They posted, advertised, they had multiple people, and they interviewed. Okay, and when you say it pays for itself, I mean, there's a lot of benefits in here, too. It's not just the salary part of it. And do you think it's going to pay for itself with a total package?
I don't have any reason to disbelieve them when they tell me the numbers. If you would like, I can bring one of or both of them back, and they can go through the numbers and show you how they came to this figure.
Well, did the athletic directors, community ed people, they costed this all out, you're saying?
That's their job.
I think that's Spencer's job, really.
They've also.
But it's also their job, too, to figure out how much these programs are going to cost.
No.
And my understanding
I
is.
have that information, actually.
Go ahead, Brandy.
My understanding too is they've already got people signing up and we need a coordinator to be taking care of it.
We already hired her from February till the end of June last year, so that's going through the summer anyway. That's already in
So
place.
you're talking about
It's
this year? I thought it
It
was.
is.
Director Sorkin, it's not. That program has closed. Why used to run it, they're not there anymore.
I know, but I'll show you that we had in the minutes of the previous board that we hired her from February of this year to the end for the summer school.
I believe you.
This goes back to July of last year to 2024, end of June.
If you want to propose to her to pay her at the,
What was that, Spence?
It's effective April 11th. The contract does not go back to July 1st. It's right in if you read,
This says July 1st, but
if you read 5.5, it states effective April 11th, 2024.
Okay.
5.5. Okay, well, that's not what this says. The actual contract says July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2024.
And the first year is prorated based on the April 11th start.
Right, okay.
and that part Spencer calculated.
All right.
Okay, what else?
I'd make a motion to approve 5.4, 5.5, 5.7, and 5.9.
You got it. Okay, all right. We have one on there, just one more to discuss.
Yeah, we'll do these for 4 first.
Okay.
Well,
No, but the agenda, okay.
Yeah, and Lotiger approved, or seconded it.
But have we finished discussing?
We can
I don't
discuss
know.
now. I just made a motion, now we're in discussion.
Okay.
separately because 5 is a whole different subject. I would vote for 1 and probably not.
You made the motion, I support it.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have a motion to do all 4 of them.
I move to amend it to eliminate 5, to do 4, 7, and 9, and do 5 separately.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we got a motion by Director Sorkin. Can I get support?
I'll support it.
Support by Director Dahl, to take 5.5 separately from 5.4, 5.7, 5.9.
So if we vote for this, it's amended, and if we vote no against it, it goes back to the original.
In favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails 3-4. Okay,
Well, wait, you changed yours and I amended it, but you changed it.
no.
Back to
Go
yours.
back to yours.
Okay, that's fine.
Went to yours.
4, 7, and 9, right?
Now we're taking mine, 4, 5, 7, and 9.
We're taking 4, 5, 7, and 9 all together now.
Okay, so
So we got
mine failed to remove number 5.
Correct.
Correct.
So we got motion by Director Yuan, support by Director Lotiger. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion fails 6-1. Our motion passes 6-1. Moving on to 5.9. Let's
No.
see. No, not 5.9, excuse me, 5.14.
14.
I pulled that, a 115-pound propane tank that's full, I think is a little, for $125 is a little cheap.
So I.
Do better than that.
So, no, so I went online, okay, so I went online and I looked, John brought it up to me, I went and looked, and that tank brand new is, I mean, the cheapest one I found was, and it was $700, it was free delivery, the cheapest one was $775, okay, with nothing in it. I would suggest, John, that maybe we just make a counter offer to him. Other than that, we won't sell it for that. I mean, if that's what you want to do.
Or we can just tonight and
Just-
have bids come in for it.
So, I mean, when you're looking at propane, and I mean, if there was a 115-gallon tank, or how many gallons in it, I don't know, times
Gauge at 60 or something on it, so I mean,
60%.
yeah.
I mean,
I think that it's a little light, and we could put it now.
Okay.
We've got some sales coming up, or take bids on it either way.
okay, so you just want to remove it?
Just remove it.
Okay. All right, so can I get a motion just to remove that item?
John did?
It's already been removed, yeah.
Okay,
I second.
second by Director Sorkin to remove 5.4 completely.
14.
I mean, 5.14, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Well, let's have a little bit of discussion.
Right.
So this crops up every once in a while, where somebody knows that something, they have inside information, either they work for us or whatever, and they come in and they say, I'd like to do this. And, I think we just need to either put it in the sale coming up or the ones that we've had, not just because somebody knows somebody or they put their hand out first and then, they get rewarded and they get to buy things. And so I totally agree. I agree with you, Tim, and I agree with you, John. Let's put it in, let's have bids, let's let everybody know about it, and everybody have equal chance. And do it that way, and let's do that from now on, not just have people solicit.
I know the history of the Gilbert campus and the Evelyn campus. It was like that. If something came up for sale, it was just kind of sold without it going up on.
that's a big-
It was kind of sold. Things just kind of disappeared, they said.
And so, yeah, even if it was done that way, it wasn't right. So let's make
Okay.
it.
My only concern is that we don't start advertising for things, I have to go here, advertising things that our advertisements cost more than,
Okay.
We can put them in our bulk sales.
Can you just stay right there, Tim? Since I want to be done with discussion on 5.14. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to,
Hey, before you move on, Bill, and members of the board, what we can do is we can simply add this to the do bid auction and then have it,
I like that. yeah.
anyone buy it, top dollar gets it.
I just think,
Is there a pending do bid auction? Is there?
There's one coming up at the end of the year because of the closing of the building. We have a bunch of stuff to sell. we will just add this one. But we put this on one because we don't want to withhold information that people are telling us that they want you to see.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, moving on. We got people
Okay, we
waiting.
got 6, update on the Evel Hippodrome.
Hey, I'm here to save you money. No spending money. All right, Hippodrome, stuff good, looking good. Scoreboard's taken care of. Open away, youth hockey owned it, so we don't have permission to do that. That's done. We got the paint manufacturer and color codes from the athletic director, got all that. Carpet replacement for locker rooms, we're gonna change it to green and black. It's black and gold right now. Ice logos are in design, will be installed for next season. Scott Collins has been in touch with Travis, ice plant, the brine system, the pressure, the compressors. I don't understand any of the technical stuff. We also retained an additional commercial refrigeration company for backup, need be. Working on the banner sizes basically for the wall behind the player's box. We gotta measure that out and see exactly how big this is, B2, 1, whatever else. Randy, you asked about the water on the ice. That can be fixed, determining the ratio of the temperature of the water in the Zamboni as it relates to the ambient temperature of the rink and the relative humidity. I don't know what any of that means. That's what I was told by that.
I was told the plant was already off.
What's that?
The plant was already off for that weekend. That's why there's excess water, is what I was told.
Okay, well, from what we're hearing is that it has to do with the temperature, the humidity in the building with the temperature of the water that's going into the Zamboni. Because it's gotta be it's gotta hit at the right spot for it to set in a certain amount of time.
So it's fixable.
It is, yeah, it's just the ice guys. Moving on to the elephant in the room. I did an audit of your hockey program for last year. And I had these numbers before the last school board meeting, but I wanted to make sure that we didn't have the unicorn of hockey programs. And everybody else was using 500 hours and we were using 378. Okay? So I got on the phone. I called Grand Rapids, Dinah, Matamidi, Dodge County, and Rochester Lourdes. I also called Hermantown, but I haven't heard back from Dave, I think his name is. It turns out that we are in a unicorn. Edina, 435 hours they used last year. That includes 27 and a half hours of tryouts and a 28 and a half hour 3-day jamboree that they ran in Edina. The thing they have one of those because they have so many teams there. So it's bigger. Grand Rapids, 380 hours last year. Rockridge was 378. Dodge County was 365. Rochester Lourdes only has a boys program, so I just doubled their numbers, came up to 350. And your state champion, Matamidi, came in with 330 hours of hockey time last year for their entire program. Boys, girls, varsity, JV. Okay? So, about too many hours. But we can not do that again. I want to make something really clear here. The city of Virginia did nothing wrong, okay? The responsibility for this $25,000 is whoever told you, the school board, that you needed 500 hours. I got on the phone and in 10 minutes I knew there was something wrong. The lady in Grand Rapids, fantastic. The guys from Matamidi, they really easy to deal with. They told me what they're doing. They also told me how they go about buying the hours. And that's in here. Okay. Virginia, you offered and told them when you wanted a contract, they gave you a contract. The contract was October 17th to March 8th. You had 350 hours. The fact that it was probably physically impossible to use all 350 hours. I mean, you used 150 at the hip, and there was no way you were going to do it. I mean, if Edina with 4 rinks and Braemar can't do it, there's no way you're going to do it. Because one of the athletic directors told me, it doesn't matter if you have 500 students or 5,000 students, you have 4 hockey teams. That's it. You got maybe 80 kids, and you can only skate them so much. So, going forward on this, after talking to the athletic directors, I asked them, I said, well, here's what we did. What do you do so you don't do what we did? Everyone, what they're telling me is that they go through their purchase for ice time. If they used 375 hours last year, they buy 25 to 50 hours less than that, okay? Because you never know how long your season's gonna be, because you don't know how you're gonna do. But they never purchase more than they're gonna use. They'll have additional hours contracts, right? The way that, and this policy, this framework here is a hybrid, because we have 2 arenas. The athletic director at Matamina would love to have either one of our arenas, but they aren't gonna get one anytime soon. He told me that they're having some issues finding funding, being able to build an arena, and he'd love to do it, but it's not gonna happen anytime soon. The information I got from them, and if we take that and we apply it on this policy proposal, I don't know, I would look at it as a framework, right? The framework for your negotiations. You buy 350, split it in half, 175 at each side, with the ability to buy more hours if you need, okay? Same rate. If you need more hours, you only buy more hours after you use up the 175 at each site. And you split those hours evenly. Now, of course, if you got a playoff game at the Hippodrome on a Thursday and you want to practice postseason Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's fine, either or. That's the kind of thing. That's not a problem. The additional hours you buy are billed 1 month after the end of the season, because you don't know when your season's going to end. Could be first round of playoffs, you could go to the state tournament. Almost made it last year. If for some reason, COVID, swine flu, asteroid strike, whatever it is, you don't use your 350, the 175 at each ring, they carry over to the next year. So once you buy them, they're yours. You never pay for more than you use. Okay? So you're never going to have overpayment again. And if you use this framework, it also keeps the promises that were made prior to consolidation that hockey was going to be split, right? And what you did the first season of the collaboration, if you take this framework and apply it to last season, for the same amount of money, you get an entire hockey season and a free bus engine, right? Doesn't cost you any more money. You get a full hockey season and you got a new engine and a bus. You know, back when I used to work, for a living, I wrote and negotiated contracts. Okay? And the easiest contracts to negotiate were the ones that had the fewest variables in them. Okay? If you follow this framework, your ice time contracts will have one variable in it. That's your hourly rate for ice time. One variable. And what I told you at the last meeting, Evelyn's rate is $150 an hour for the next 5 years. So I've already taken half of your variable out of the equation. All you got to do is figure out what you're going to do, what Virginia's rate is. Okay? You can save yourself, well, what did they work out to be? $27,000 you saved yourself from last year's ice time. Had you implemented this, and if you would implement this coming year, because Evelyn's rate's the same, if you implement this in the coming year, Virginia's rate stays the same, you save $27,000 on hockey next year. Okay? Good news. Saved you $27,000. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you. If I don't have the answers, I will find the answers.
My only question too is, did you reconcile your numbers of ice time usage with our ADs?
I went off of the Iron Range web.
I know you did, but did you add our ADs and say, is this how much ice time we used?
No, I just went off the calendars.
Okay.
Or the business manager. Did you talk to our business manager?
No, I didn't talk to your business manager. I went through every single day of the Iron Trail Motors Event Center calendar from October 17th to March 8th for both rinks and counted every single hour. I originally did it off the IRC website. The problem with the IRC website, they weren't listing JV practices. But I did find out later after going through Iron Trail Motors website, or the City of Virginia website, that the JV and varsity practices coincided. Okay, hour for JV, hour and a half for varsity. So those numbers of practices coincided. They did also on the Iron Range Conference website, there's no postseason practices. And I'm sure that during the regular season, if a coach says, hey, we're going to cancel practice tomorrow, or we're going to have an extra practice, he doesn't go on the IRC website and add that in or delete that out. So I went through every single day of the Evelyn Hippodrome records, on-site records, and every single day of the calendars. And the numbers that I came up with, if Edina, 27 and a half hours of tryouts and a 28-hour jamboree, right? If you take those off of there, they're right in line with our regular season practice and play. So there's no way, no possible way we use 500 hours of ice time.
The only other thing that I'm going to say about the subject, well, a couple of things, I guess, but if you remember, my concerns weren't just that there was standing water on the ice that weekend. I've gotten complaints all this year regarding gashes, big, gashes in the ice from the ice being soft, and also the ice coming away from the corners and causing safety concerns.
That is being.
So it wouldn't be impacted, the coolers or whatever were off that weekend, that wouldn't impact the rest of the season. So that's still my concern.
Well,
We're sending elementary kids there 3 times a week during the winter. I don't mean.
Yeah, so you understand in this.
That's, I don't buy into those safety concerns myself.
Well, and my point is, regardless of where the JV and the varsity play, again, those youth deserve just as great of a rink too. So regardless of what happens here, the city of Evelyn should still be pursuing the things that you're mentioning in what you sent to us. So that's the only other thing I was going to mention about that. But also, I don't know if anybody else looked at their emails today, but there was also an email from the Wolverine Blue Line Club asking for us to add their letter to the agenda as well for today regarding ice time and what the Blue Line Club pays for, kind of their perspective. So I did ask Stacy to print out that email, so if you want me to provide it for those who did not read their email or didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, I did.
On that.
I did, Brandy.
You did read it?
Yep. It kind of, bottom line was.
I'm going to still hand it out.
It too,
Yeah.
but I would like a copy.
Because I can't find mine right now.
Send it out
Thank
to
you.
everybody.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir?
I think this is all good information, but I think in the future,
Thank you.
sooner than later, that we put out an RFP and use some of the information that he's given and decide as a board what we're going to do.
We got to decide soon.
Yeah, sooner than later.
We kept youth hockey in the lurch a long time, and we couldn't fill our tournaments. I mean, we need to decide soon. I think Watsy for giving us all this information and doing the research. I think it's all very good, and I can verify. And I know that the guy from the Wild already called the guys at the HIP, and he said that he's going to come up and help. So I can verify that. I think it's all good information.
I want to say something else. I also checked with the Hippodrome staff, the guys who've been there for over 25 years. I talked to some of the old coaches. Not a single person that I spoke to that has worked at the Hip, reffed at the Hip, coached at the Hip, has ever heard of a single game being canceled or a single team not willing to play or a ref canceling a game because of ice conditions. I'm just telling you,
I didn't
there's
say that.
anecdotal things that are said about coaches fixing ice, okay? There's anecdotal things about ice conditions, right? Okay. It's like the whole thing about, the rumor gets around the world before the truth gets its pants on. No one can tell me of anybody getting hurt, anybody canceling a game or anything else. If we have a problem with a plugged brine line, we'll figure it out, okay? But this program, this Fiercely United, leading up to this consolidation was hockey's going to be split 50-50. That's what was said by.
I have actually, I know I keep hearing this, but I was not on the board at that time. I was just a mom, voting for it.
Yeah.
I've gone back to all the flyers and propaganda, and I don't see that anywhere. And I'm just wondering where that is, that verbiage.
It was said.
I'm glad you asked.
It was said.
No.
And I really do.
I agree with it there, but it's, you know what? That's the past, and we have to come to a condition now. And
I do, but it keeps being brought up, and I just like to know about it. That's all.
Definitely said.
Information.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
I don't know when the first time it was said. And I don't know how many times it was said. But I'll tell you this. The last time I know it was said by this administration was August 22nd of 2022 in this very room when board member Matt Schoberg said that leading up to the referendum, we had told the cities that hockey was going to be shared. At that same meeting, at that same time, he referenced to Dr. Schmidt, who said that he, in fact, had told the public that hockey would be split 50-50, and that's what you did the first season. If you're interested in looking at it, it said 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 30 seconds of that meeting.
Okay, I have a couple.
That's what was said. And the reason why hockey was 50-50 season one is because that's what everybody said was going to happen. I don't remember a rush of people coming up here and going, why is hockey 50-50? No one complained about it because that's what we were told was going to happen. It wasn't until it went to 70-30 and now it's going to be 100% and Evelyn's going to get 2 games a year. That's why this issue is coming up. But if you'd like to look at it, it's on the Rockridge or on the YouTube channel, October 22nd, 22.
August 22nd.
August 22nd, 22.
Just out of curiosity, because I keep hearing this. However, I do have 2 comments. So I've been hearing that the ice plant is just that you guys need a new one, that it's not fixable. I have sources. I'm not revealing my sources. This is not my
I
forte.
spoke to the guy who runs it.
Okay, so that is a rumor. That's what I've been hearing.
Okay, that's right.
Second thing that concerns,
I'm just saying,
yeah.
I spoke to Scott. And
Okay. The second thing is, what's the, because I just don't know, what's the handicapped accessibility like there for parking and to get into the building?
there's a ramp getting into the building. The handicap, I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I do know that the city of Evelyn is starting the process to have it registered as a National Historic Landmark. And that's part of, one of what we're doing. And I'm sure maybe at some point in time, we are looking in the process of updating, getting some funding for updating all that. But part of that process is once it gets registered, there's more money available for those updates through the federal government and the state.
I will just say about the handicap accessibility. I mean, my dad is handicapped and we did use there is a ramp. He did use the ramp and there is a seating section underneath one of the scoreboards or the clock. Continue the conversation, but I'd like to see some of these changes happen. Like, I'd like to see that that there's, some branding in there. I'd like to see that the ice in particular is taken care of. I mean, as far as handicap parking, I think there's 1 or 2 spots outside the door, and people have started parking on the sidewalk in front of the Hippodrome, in order to get a handicap spot and to get in.
So cars were around, so we're kind of limited on it, but we're working on it. We do have a plan that we're trying. We have some ideas, but listen, we're doing everything we can, right? As far as the ice plant, the pressure tests on the ice plants and the compressors are fine. Might be an issue with plugged brine lines. We're gonna clean those up. We have the ice guy. We have the man, right? That's not gonna be an issue. The logos in the ice, we've got the paint codes. We called the school to get the manufacturer and the color codes. I don't know what's Cabrio Green or whatever it's called, whatever their name is. We got all that, right? Everything is progressing. But here's the deal. City of Ellet's not gonna start ripping out carpeting, painting stuff and slapping down banners and buying banners and putting in logos in this if you're not gonna play hockey there twice a year.
But it is being played, hockey is being played in there. Youth hockey is being played there.
Youth hockey's being
And
played
all
there.
those youth hockey players, hold on, all those youth hockey players have Rockridge Wolverine jerseys.
Yeah.
And so they are dressed in green, black, and white. So regardless, that's why I keep saying, regardless of where the JV and the varsity play, that should still be the goal, is to have new carpeting, some branding, because those youth hockey players are playing there and they do have the jerseys of Rockridge Wolverines.
And I appreciate that. We're not talking about youth hockey, okay? This referendum that was voted on, the school that was built, was not about youth hockey. I understand what you're saying, though. I went through the schedule. I know how much youth hockey is played there, and it's a lot. But the issue we're talking about is not youth hockey, it's high school hockey. And I talked to Matt Schoberg today, and he told me about the meetings of the Activities Commission and how your athletic directors at the time had told the hockey coaches at the time that this hockey was going to be split 50-50 between the cities. That's what he told our old hockey coach, okay? So when you say, I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to think, and Mr. Reardon, no offense, but you say, that's the past. If a promise made in the past doesn't have any bearing on the present or the future, then why make the promise?
It's like I told you when we had that meeting in the other room and you looked at me and said, well, you're from Virginia and you want the games there. And I said, I'm an advocate for the HIP. And that's why I said, we can't do anything that was said about in the past, but we can look at what we should do in the future. And you don't want to alienate people that are for the HIP. Thank you.
I'm just saying, sir, you can't say that promises made in the past don't have any bearing on the present.
I didn't say they don't have a bearing. I said they were said in the past.
For the sake of time,
I would.
Any other questions?
Look at this framework and adopt this framework when you file for your contracts, when you ask for your contracts. And instead of asking the cities what they want, you write the checks. Why don't you tell the cities what they can have, okay? You write the checks. You're in charge of this.
Okay.
First, I have a question, and I haven't had a chance to comment either. So when you say the savings would be 27.6, wouldn't it even be more if Virginia's rate wasn't 207 per hour?
Well,
The savings
Virginia's
would have
initial
been,
rate was 179 on their original contract that they supplied last year. They supplied a 3-year contract at $500 per year. The original rate was 179 for year 1, 183 for year 2, and 187 for year 4. I know more about your hockey finances than anybody in this room. When you cut the hours from 500 proposed hours to Virginia to 350 hours, they raised the rate per hour by $28 per hour. No explanation was given why the rate mysteriously got more. But the rate went from 179 for 500 hours to $207 an hour for 350 hours.
But Fitz, you got to be honest about that. Evelyn in their second proposal, upped their rate too.
Yes, we did. We raised the
Yeah,
rate.
and so
25 to
there's,
150.
there's bad on both sides, and I take your cue that we should send out a bid request and go from there.
You guys should make the choices of
Yeah.
how many hours, but here's the thing. How many hours each city gets? If you split it down the middle, all you have left to do is one variable. What is your hourly rate? You already know ours. We guaranteed ours for 5 years at $150 an hour with all the conditions included. Same rate for extra hours, carryover if not used, billing an hour after the season. It's all there.
All right, thanks, Frank.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a note that send out an RFP.
I already have.
Okay, very good. Okay.
But wait, it's not an RFP, Bill. We have to decide what our terms are going to be.
After
Kind of a
we have
framework.
a meeting, we send out an RFP
Well,
on what we want, and then they bid on it.
we have to decide, though, if it's the framework on the last page of this document, that's the framework. So we don't just send out an RFP because we have to set the parameters and the substance and the structure. That's something we have to decide upon as a.
Yeah, that's what the activities and committee will talk about, and then bring it back to the board. There'll be a lot of discussion, and then we'll send out an RFP.
Who's on the activities committee?
I am.
Who else is on there?
Tim,
Okay. All right.
I hope that committee really considers in that last page, because that sounds like a good framework to me.
Willie, 6.2, I think you're up next. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging around, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, good evening. I just wanted to take the opportunity to
Good
talk about some of the great things that are happening in my school to work engagement and fundraising. So I'll try to get through this. I know you guys are super busy tonight. Thanks for this opportunity. Special thanks to Bill Welsh for his donations to our robotics program, $2,000 as part of his $2,000 per year for 10 years to our robotics program. What a great Gilbert High School graduate, Bill. So thank you very much. A Fastenal donation for field trips and partnerships with Fastenal, an incredible company about automation in the construction world where our kids are seeing a lot of that. When we just visited Cirrus machines there, but a nice donation of $4,000 from Donna Lee Poppenfuss, who happens to be Sam Craig, one of our teachers' mom, and she works down there, and she wanted to help our program all the way from Winona. That was very nice to help our kids get around and get out to Bemidji. There's some great plans for next year, and they have more money available for us too. So that was incredibly nice. Thank you, Fastenal. New bid. I think that came up just a couple minutes ago. We've been working really hard at, I've been kind of sidebarring with DoBid as part of the sales as opportunities to make money. So they are in our technical building at Virginia. They are marking things. They are cruising through all of that and planning for the online auction of a whole bunch of stuff. If it makes sense, we'll talk about it more in the future that we have our sale also. We will. All of that is still more information coming, but DoBid is in there marking stuff, so watch for more information coming about that. Good on that, Dr. Schmidt? Okay. I've been working with Stacy Lampa on the grand opening. That's been a lot of fun because of all my wonderful donors. I want to make sure that everything happens on that end. We've been working with community liaisons and also the donor part and being on the school closings. And that's been a lot of fun. Finalizing a partnership right now. Stay tuned on our building construction lab. That's going well. And coordinating with Dinko Construction and the CTE teachers to get equipment moved from Gilbert to here, from Virginia to here. That's been good. A lot of our sponsorship signage going up on the ball fields and doing a lot of coordination with that. One of the companies that was doing that, same company as the Scrim, called and asked Willie when's the first game. I said, hopefully if the weather holds. It was, last week or 2 weeks ago. And he said, I'll be up this morning, I want to get those signs up. I want those fields to look nice. And then the incredible windstorm took one down. 3 days later, he was back up here. It's up, completely unaffected. So great working with him. I don't know if you saw it on the news and in the newspaper, but the Seroptimus program had 30-plus students for their Dream It, Be It. That was a great program at Eveleth Auditorium this year. Last year it was in Virginia. Thanks to the Mesabi Tribune and to WDIO for their coverage of that event and the Hometown Focus. We had a lot of coverage there. I like all of those people being there because I want the communities to see the great things that are going on. So that, and I don't remember what the quote was, that the rumor can't get around before the pants are on. This way, everybody knows everything that's going on, the great things that are happening. So you'll hopefully see even more of that stuff. I've been giving a ton of tours. Dr. Schmidt snuck in on one of them today for a key. And I mean, people's eyes are just this big, folks. They are absolutely amazed about this place. And several of these people weren't even from here today. They live here in the summers and they have a friend who requested it, who's a part of our programs. And it's absolutely incredible what they're seeing. They're coming out of Bloomington, they're coming out of Wayzata, they're coming out of everywhere in the metropolitan, just absolutely amazed and impressed with what all of these towards all of what our communities did to get this incredible high school and for all of our facilities off the ground. Recently, we were able to get funds for baseball bleachers. So I felt it was my responsibility to help coordinate those and get those here. And recently we had the semi suddenly show up with these bleachers. So a special thank you to John Yuhan and his father Joe for donating their time to unload the set of bleachers. And another special thank you to John Yuhan and Forklifts of America for donating the
Minnesota, Forklifts of Minnesota.
Minnesota, John!
Trying to get you bigger.
Yeah.
I just saw on the teletape that Forklifts of Minnesota, no. So thank you, John, and Forklifts of Minnesota. Thank you very much for donating the forklifts for us to use in so many projects right now that are happening. I know we used it today, an absolute ton. We will be using even more. So thank you very much. Incredibly appreciative.
You're welcome. Glad it worked out.
Yes, it's really working out. Thank you. You'll see in the future here, the Mesabi Tribune, I saw a neat story from Todd Ufford. He had written to me and wanted to share and said, really, you got to come and see this. A former student of mine who's doing very well in his career and is attributing a lot of that success in everything he's doing to his science teacher, Mr. Ufford. I got a hold of the newspapers. They came in and they'll be doing a story on it, and I think you'll really like it, so watch for that coming in the Mesabi Tribune. Recently, the Rockridge Educational Fund, which I'm chairing, along with the Wolverine Fund. These are through the Virginia Community Foundation. Recently, the Rockridge Educational Fund just supported the $1,330 for kitchen equipment at the new culinary lab. $331.10 to Parkview first grade teachers. Kelly Voss was the requester for an exploration into plants unit. That's a real cool story that those teachers are doing, along with Janine Bauman and the one above from the culinary lab, and $2,000 for the media aide Bridget LaCourcier, her as the requester at Laurentian for more bookshelves to match what they have. So a great job for the Educational Fund. And as you'll notice in your consent agenda tonight, please notice items 16, 17, and 18. They grid line up with me. Can I borrow one to someone? Thanks, Ben. Here I come. You'll see items 16, 17, and 18. Donation from the Golden Bear Foundation, the amount of $550 for the Laurentian Elementary Sensory Room. Acceptance and appreciation of a donation from the Golden Bear Fund for $130 for Maxine Perko's SMART program, and a donation of $500 from the Golden Bear Foundation to North Star Elementary for purchase of ice skates. Just an example of two great foundations that are doing wonderful things for the Rockridge Public Schools. So I'm the lucky one that gets to work with all of them. So thank you to those foundations and everybody involved. And I know those folks that were here earlier tonight are major donors to all of that.
Can I ask you a quick question about that? You had mentioned about the donation of ice skates. I just had that question recently about people who have skates from when their kids were in hockey and what can they do with them? Because a lot of the classes do go to the rinks and go skating. Is there somebody that would store those? Is there where?
Contact the principal or me, okay? I can do that because when I was the Roosevelt principal, yes, we'll take them. We had a storage bin, yes. And think about it, we don't need size 12. Think about the elementary grade sizes, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Yep.
8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there. And obviously in good enough shape that we can just put them on a kid. So yeah, that's great. Whoever is saying that, thank you to them. Brandy, if you're go between, get a hold of me, Willie. I got 6 pair of skates. Can you go pick them up? Yes, and I'll get them too.
Nothing but goalie skates at her house, so.
Mine are no good, eh, Willie?
Yours are no good anymore.
Hey, buddy. Okay.
Will you make mention of number 19 too, Gethsemane?
Yes, I will. Acceptance with donation, yes, from children's clothing and personal care. This one, thanks, Polly, for products to the school health offices from the Gethsemane Lutheran Church. Thanks, Polly. Great notice right there. Thank you, Gethsemane Church, for those products. Wonderful. Any questions?
No.
Keep missing meetings. I don't want you guys to wonder what I'm doing. Hopefully this lets you know that we're in a woodpile.
Thank you for all the work.
Thank you, Willie.
Thanks, Willie.
Good job on everything.
You're up next, Mr. Mark Winter, for the principal's report.
Good evening, thank you, and I'll try to be quick and brief as well. At Virginia, and a lot of my Virginia reports are going to be a Rockridge High School report, because really we're in the midst of making this transition. So we're doing a lot of things, working with both staffs, both student bodies, really working on getting this transition and moving into the new building. First thing I want to mention, several weeks ago, we brought a group of students together at Rockridge High School along with the staff. And they took a deep look and got into some small groups, some circles, and really tried to determine what they want Rockridge High School to look like. What is the behavior expectations? What are their wishes? What are their hopes? What are the rumors that they've heard that they aren't so wild about? Different things like that. And really they did a fabulous job putting together a lot of what it looks like and what behavior should look like in different areas in the building. And I think, Brandy,
I was there. Yeah.
And it really, they did a fabulous job, and it was great for them. I heard nothing but positives from both the kids, and all the adults were really just floored as how well of a job and how seriously they took it, and how much ownership they are going to gain from this. And it was stated that they're going to need to help us in policing some of this, that they need to start promoting and holding their peers accountable as well. So that was great to see. A couple days later, we then brought it to the staff. We actually brought what the students had put forth and brought it to the staff just to see, did we miss anything? Were there any areas that they felt needed some tweaking? And really, for the most part, the kids nailed it. Basically, what the adults were thinking, the kids were also thinking. Obviously a few tweaks, but so we're continuing that process and continuing with those types of things. Other things happening in the building, obviously in the entire district, we're in the middle of test season. So we're hammering out the MCA tests. Also at the high school levels, we had ACT tests earlier in April. We're also in the AP testing. So all of that is in the realm. So it's great. The kids work really hard. It does put some stress in the building because these are 3 weeks worth of tests over a 5-week span. So we're really working and hammering those out. There are officially at the high school level 24 days of school left. And when you start throwing in test days and some of the other days we have planned, there really is not a lot of school time left. So we keep stressing to some kids. I had a meeting with one today that, time is short. We really have to make sure you stay on top of your game and really follow through with those types of things. Couple things that we have in the plan. Friday, May 12th, we're bringing all the 6th graders over to the new building for a transition program and a transition half day through lunch with them, so they'll come right over. So really trying to not only sixth grade, it's a huge adjustment for sixth graders, obviously moving into seventh grade, coming into a whole different out of elementary into a high school setting, but also throw on top of that a brand new building. So that's happening. A couple days later, we're then bringing the entire student body over by grade levels. So the sixth graders come the 12th, the 15th and 16th, we bring in the other grade levels because some of them still have not seen the building. So we'll have an introduction for each of them, short meeting, and then give them tours as well so they can start to transition and know what the feel of the building is and really see how awesome of a place it's going to be. Like I said, we're at Virginia. I've talked several times about the many lasts that are coming, and obviously ETHS also has many of these same things, but the lasts that are really happening, we have final music concerts coming up. One actually was tonight. We had a band concert going on. Prom is coming May 6th. The last awards programs are coming. There's a concert for the Goodman Farewell concert. All of those things are wrapping up. So really the next 30 days at Virginia High School is kind of a whirlwind. We've got all of those final and last things, and yet we're trying to move. So I really commend our staff. They have done an incredible job at Virginia High School preparing for this move. If you've been into the high school, you've seen the shop areas, how much stuff they've already moved and have there. If you start looking into storage closets now, there are a lot of boxes that are moved. There are a lot of things. Our hope is really by the time we get to our moving day, all we have left is furniture that we have to move. So staff is throwing a lot of stuff away. There's 100 years of paper that are no longer needed. So there's a lot of that stuff we're just purging, getting rid of, and really only bringing what's necessary to the new building. A couple really big things I want to comment on. Obviously, May 25th is the Virginia High School closing program. So that kind of is the end of all of the things that will be happening at Virginia High School other than graduation. So there will be a program, and it's at 5:30 p.m. We have a short list of speakers coming. We'll have some treats. So a very nice event being planned there. We've got a little committee going. So that's kind of exciting. Then obviously graduation, June 2nd. That's at 5:30 p.m. at Virginia High School as well. Last thing I just want to touch on, we do have a Culture Climate Committee that continues to meet. That is a group that's been meeting since January probably. It is staff from both Evelyn Gilbert and Virginia, and really their sole purpose is to create what this climate is going to be in the new building. So they've really done a lot of work with behavior expectations, those things that we talked about in the little meeting. We brought the students together to get their buy-in and their input as well. And then the other part that that committee is really working on is what the first few days of school is going to look like next year. So we're going to be bringing in, nearly, hopefully more than 1,200 students into a new building where students have never set foot before. To expect to walk in day one and have things to just, everybody knows what they're doing and where to go is not realistic. So we really have to put together a good plan and really prepare for those first few days of school. With that, any questions you have for me?
I'll just make a comment because I did attend that day over at the high school, Rockridge High School. And couple of things. I think I mentioned at a previous school board meeting too, but the kids asked if I would stay after. They had some questions for me regarding a lot of different things. But a couple of the main things that I wanted to mention was school board reps. They had a lot of questions about school board reps because they heard that that was going to be starting. So if we can just maybe have a meeting or talk a little bit about that, the next agenda. But they also had questions about active shooter trainings and things like that they wanted. And then they were also, like you mentioned, about the the starting of the school year and what that's going to look like. And they had asked also if it's possible to do like starting in a wave, like one age group, or a couple grade levels start, half a day this day and then the other half the next day or next half of the day, whatever. But they had asked about that too. So it was really nice. They had a lot of great questions and, yeah, it was really nice to attend that. And the seating, they really liked the seating in there, especially the cafe style stuff. They were really happy with that, so. But.
And I too attended the play on Thursday. How many people there on Thursday? And it was quite acoustics were great, seats were comfortable. I mean, as best as I could get with a bum arm, but, it was, before I knew it, the play was over.
Yep. Yeah. So great stuff happening.
Yep. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Up next is the treasurer's report there. Go ahead, Director Dahl.
No, this is not me, is it?
Yeah.
The payments,
Treasurer's report, 6.4.
That was the payment of the bills.
it's just the payment of bills, it's not my,
No report on
I
it.
don't know what you want me to do, if you want me to read
Oh.
every single bill,
No.
500 bills.
Yeah, I have
Here
treasurer.
comes Spencer.
Thank you, Spencer.
Reading doesn't have the bank balances,
Okay.
you can just do that at the end of the month, so what's in there now is really
Yeah.
Scary.
payroll like
Again.
normal.
Oh, I'd like to hear them all.
I got time.
Yeah, I got time. John and I have.
Time and
So
money.
are you coming up for the finance report?
If you want to read it, I mean,
Or are you coming up to talk about the
huh?
treasurer's report?
Okay, we'll work on that together.
I make a motion to accept the payment report.
Okay,
How does
that's
that
what I was waiting for. Second,
Okay, so we got, where do you read payment report?
treasurer's report.
Okay, all right, I don't have that either. A motion by
John.
Director Yuhan, support by
Lotiger.
Director Lotiger. Any discussion on the payment report?
Good job.
Okay, all those, no discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion, the payment reports is done. Okay, finance report, 6.5.
Yeah, so I'm bringing back the budget discussions that we've had. The report you have in your packet really hasn't changed since the board meetings and the finance committee meeting we had last week. I'll again just go over kind of the big picture stuff. Our assumptions are, we use the carryover method for students, which puts it down 50 ADM. We're going to use, using a basic aid increase of 3% from the state of Minnesota, 2% for our contracts. And we're also looking to reduce half of our ESSER, 1.1 million that we're using in ESSER funds. So we're looking at making reduction of about $580,000. A couple things that we're keeping an eye on down at St. Paul. The most current bill does have some special ed cross-subsidy revenue for us. That could be anywhere between $700,000 and $800,000, depending on if that gets passed and where that ends up. We're also hearing a 4% basic aid increase that would help by about $70,000 more for us. Unemployment is also in there, which could cost us $500,000. The current language does not have a funding mechanism for us to pay for it. So that would have to come out of our general fund. So all those things, we're looking at both. We haven't added those into our assumptions yet. We hope to know more in the next month. They're supposed to be done at the end of May, the session. And I hope they do so that we can wrap things up. But our assumptions are what we've started back in looking at. And then I also included the kind of list of categories and where we spend for you to look at or ask some questions. We also looked at this last Thursday at the Finance Committee as well. Some of the big things are tuition, our PSEO costs are up, and what we spend at the NLC for students that go over there. Utilities is another high one that we have. Again, that one's estimate. We don't know what our new school is going to cost us and how much we're going to save by closing part of the Evelyn campus. So those are those items. And the only new piece is the rough draft of budget reallocations. You can see the dollar amounts for net adjustments is the same, but how that came about, the admin team looked at some different areas and came up with these reallocations. So I guess kind of my question to the board is, do you want to continue for us to look at these reallocations that are on this page? Do you want us to look at some of these other expenditures and invest somewhere else, so that we can kind of move forward and kind of finalize our budget so we can get it to you your late May, early June for forward movement. We want to wait to see what the state does, those final numbers come in. So just kind of a little bit of feedback from you so we can kind of make that next step in the process. So I'll open it up for any questions or comments or thoughts.
I know the staff is really getting antsy. They want to get a budget. So I think the sooner we can ease their minds, the better.
I agree.
Spencer, can you identify, I mean, not right now, but it can be identified what positions we might be able to save using ESSER money versus general fund money?
Yeah, so we would be saving $500,000 in ESSER, would be using those ESSERs again.
To say, to keep staff?
To keep staff. So same way we saved them this year, we're still using ESSER to save those next year.
And that's in this last page? That's the savings?
That's part of your budget, so that you don't see them being reduced.
And that'll,
Things that are on the right, allocations, those would not be able to be used for ESSER at this point.
None of
They're
the,
not being suggested.
okay, none of these on this last sheet, huh?
Correct.
So, so instead of using.
If we were using ESSER, they're not on this sheet.
Right. So if we're using money to balance the budget, I'm trying to figure out if some of those positions are in balancing the budget. The 1.1 million over a couple of years.
And those are all employees right now. We spent $1 million spending ESSER dollars on employees this current school year. And we're asking to spend $500,000, or you told us you want to spend $500,000 on those employees.
Now, I'm just trying to figure if that equates to direct student services or, directly related to students, or some of that balancing the budget with the ESSER funds, other things other than things that affect students.
All the ESSER goes to retaining teachers
Okay.
and staff.
All right. Any more questions for Spencer?
Is there anything else you needed from us tonight?
I guess, do you want the district to move forward with the budget reductions that are in this packet today?
or wait for the session, wasn't that what you, or the
That's an
legislative
option, yeah.
session?
I don't think we can wait until May 22nd.
I don't either.
We can't
I mean,
schedule.
it's not fair to the people that may get cut.
Well, not only that, I mean, I think employees are different programs and
Yep.
things like that, are kind of waiting for us to make decisions too.
I don't know, I heard that we're losing our dean, have you heard that?
I have not heard that.
It's a rumor. So obviously that would affect things.
I wouldn't go on rumor.
I know it's.
To that person privately.
I'm just, okay, yeah. It is a
Superintendent doesn't know about it.
public thing, but okay.
It is, but I hear rumors constantly of who's retiring, who's leaving. Until I see a piece of paper, it doesn't happen. So that's what I mean by that. But
Yeah, I mean, Greenway is approving the hire, so that's all I know.
Spencer, what do you need from us tonight? Just
To go ahead with the
I think we.
projections?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead with this, it gives our principals a chance to finish their schedules, know what staff they have. So really, it's more for our admin team to be able to finalize what they have going into next year.
I'll make a motion.
to go ahead with Spencer's recommendations.
Correct.
I would clarify that as administrative.
Yeah.
Administrative recommendations. So motion by Reardon, support by, I get support?
I'll support that.
Support by Director Yuhan. Any discussion?
I would like, I just, looking at some of the budget reduction things, like, I wonder about the para. I wonder about the 8 paras, because I know that there's an increase in behaviors, I think, pretty much everywhere. So I'm wondering how that's going to impact staff and classrooms and students and.
At the finance committee meeting, they talked about some paras being not needed when we combine. I think Sheena said that there was two students that she knows are moving out of the district that were one-on-one paras that were 2 less needed right there. I think, I believe that was said. So, yeah. And we have how many para openings right now? 3 or 4?
We have a couple right now.
So.
Okay, so that was one of my concerns. The other concern would be the non-tenured teachers. I mean, you never want to attach names and things like that, but going along with the paras and the behaviors and mental health needs of kids, are we taking care of the mental health needs of the kids when we're looking at these reductions? Because that's something that a lot of funding has been there for multiple reasons, for a lot of these active shooting type things, having mental health providers helping with those situations. So that's my concern. I just want to make sure that we have in place what we need to help students.
Well, I know if I ask the counselors, I already know what they're going to say, because they've already told me quite clearly. The answer is they need everybody on deck. They need all hands on deck. They need all the staff. So they are going to tell you, we need all of them, because mental health needs are going through the rough. And this is everywhere, not just Rockridge. So they'll say yes. One of the reality you of a board have is you have to have a balanced budget. And if you go down in staff, the reality is that we do not have as many students as what we had several years ago. And so we're trying to pick areas that minimize the impact as much as possible. And that's why we're trying to go with retirements and do this slowly and go through retirements. And with the paras, we do have some that we know who are not coming back. We have a program coming together that we have special ed teachers telling us we do not need as many paras in certain programs because of how we're going to be able to service kids. And no, every para who wants a job is going to have a job. But you're right, you are never going to you're going to have somebody tell you, we always have mental health issues that are unresolved. You're going to hear it, no matter what you do.
Well, and then the other thing, I think we all got an email regarding like English numbers, high numbers in English classes, and that is a concern of mine as well.
And it depends what grade level you're at. They tend to be higher in 7th, 8th, and 9th. And what we did is we tried to keep the tenured teachers, and sometimes you don't get retirements in the areas you maybe want them in. And so that came into the factors of the budget. And so we worked hard to keep tenured teachers. So we stranded a whole bunch of them. So some of them are in some areas that maybe wouldn't be their first choice, but all tenured teachers have jobs. In order for us to add English teachers, for example, we're cutting tenured teachers to make that happen. And your deadline for cutting tenured teachers has already gone past.
Yeah.
And that would have to be something we'd look at the next year down the road. But it's an argument that each department always advocates for themselves, and I get it, because of this reason or that reason. why we need more staffing in our department.
I do have a question. We have, because of COVID money, right, we have a social worker, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that is still, I think she'll still be there for.
The remainder of this year.
Not part of this. Is that part of this or no?
The remainder of this year.
She is still here, but we would have to go down a staff member because of who's tenured and who's not tenured. So we could have some impacts, in undesired impacts in certain areas.
But that social worker isn't in a teacher thing to be tenured. Only teachers are tenured or not tenured, right?
But your social workers are still covered under your master contract with the teachers.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, I share some of your same concerns, Brandy, because if 3 teachers are retiring, I know maybe 1 or 2, that affects the class size. You're right, it affects the services. And we don't know what the effect of one clerical is going to have on the duties that person did on the other clerical. I mean, you can take that in any category. Any reduction you have has an effect on those who are left.
What we do on the clerical, we've asked our high school principals to look at it. They've looked at it. We've looked at it. And we have 2 high schools coming together. A lot of this is, now the clerical folks are probably going to disagree with this. You have, a lot of them do the same jobs in 2 different sites. When you come together in one site, it is possible.
And then I think I brought up at another meeting too, we, could look at another scenario of, instead of a dean of students and a principal or 2 or an assistant principal or whatever, especially since you brought up the thing of social worker, that I think a social worker could provide a lot more student whatever and services and help and referrals than a dean of students.
Well, and I also think there might be funding opportunities too, for a clinical social worker, which we have. I think there's, I don't know enough about it, but I think that there is a pot of money that can be dipped into for third-party billing.
Third-party billing.
So I think that there's a possibility we could retain that individual if we could third-party bill for some of the time.
It sounds like she was very much needed this last school year and did wonders for a lot of students, is what I was told.
Yeah, so
And dental work, that kind of stuff.
Glasses,
So it's, yep.
clothes.
It's not just mental health, it's everything that students are struggling with.
Yeah.
So I'm supportive of trying to keep that position. We're not talking about a person, but that position, because it is, so.
Well, the thing I look at is, this is all fluid, and it'll change. And I talked to Sheena today because I'm writing a letter to the legislature on class sizes, and she made the statement that hopefully we can get a budget done so that the principals will know what they have and what they don't have, and every day it becomes a different scenario for them. So that's why I made the motion. We can, when it comes to us, that finally we can pass or not pass it, but we need a starting point.
So if we approve this, are we saying that these budget reductions are going to happen?
I believe any names attached would still come here, correct? So then we can put these and give them, so they kind of know their numbers, how many classes they have, knowing that this is the recommendation at this point, and then at a later date, they would come to you to finalize them. And like I said to the finance committee, positively, I like to think that we're gonna gain students and we're gonna attract students, especially after the 11th. And it's always easier to hire after the fact. If we have more kids coming in August, we find more kindergarten. We've done that before, to make that hire at that time when we know they're here, instead of hoping they come here and that not happen. But, I think you're right. I think they need to know kind of what that number is going to be. I don't know the names attached to these people. obviously.
Necessarily need the names attached, which I think is public information anyway. It's no big deal, but we need to know the areas and the classes and the courses and the grade level and what impact that's going to be, no matter who the person is. In all of these, we've got teachers, non-tenured teachers, unlicensed teacher, pairs, well, we talked about that. But other than that, these are all, these budget reallocations or cuts they're all people. What other budget cuts in our general fund might we be able to make? Because these are all positions and people. People almost always have a direct relation to our students.
That's why I opened up with that first page. If there's items on that page you'd like to see us in, you certainly can. You can look at those, whether it's supplies, or items like that. Like I said, utilities, we could be spending more on utilities next year. This is my best guess at where we're gonna be. Including repairs, maintenance, custodial, all that. So if there's something you want us to look in there, I'd actually recommend us doing that. You know that, that's 1 year, next year, depending on how things go, legislation, student numbers, all that, where do we sit next year? And we wouldn't have those.
I've seen in the past where we've made our budget cuts and come August, we're adding because of numbers increased. We already missed the date if we had to cut any 10 years, which we don't want to do. But we can't keep on kicking the can down the road.
I agree with that part.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't keep kicking the can down the road, but I would like to make a recommendation that we look at, if there is an opportunity to do some third-party billing to bring the cost down of, the social work position to address mental health needs. If we could do that, again, it's hard thinking about the paras because they're hard to find and stuff like that too. But if we could look at those other opportunities for billing, third-party billing to keep a clinical social worker, I'd like to do that. I can get on board with the rest if we have to, and maybe down the road, if there's a way to make some adjustments to make it so that the English classes are smaller in size, then I'd like to do that as well. But I could get on board with this if we look at the third-party billing for a clinical social worker and keep an open mind about English.
Yep, I agree with that.
And like Tim says, it's fluid. I mean, this all can change, may hopefully for the better.
By May 22nd, some of the things they have in the hopper at the legislation are unfunded mandates, which then will hurt us even more. So,
Just give us a starting point, is what you're saying.
Okay, so
Do you know offhand how many kids next year are slated for the PSEO?
I don't know the number of leagues in that.
A general idea,
I'm
is it?
budgeting the same amount that we're paying this year.
Oh, okay, which is how many students, do you know, or?
and this year was high.
This year was high.
Very high.
It's credit-based. Not every kid that goes there doesn't have.
Oh, it might take, I see what you mean, yeah.
So I can look,
I'd be just curious,
Some
definitely.
take 4 credits, some take 16 credits.
Sure. Okay.
So do we have a motion on the table? Because
Yep.
if we don't,
We have a motion by Director and support by Director Yuhan to go ahead with administrative reductions.
can I make an amendment to approve the administrative reductions with looking into the social work third-party billing to eliminate that reduction? Look into third-party billing, and then, again, keep an open mind for the English classes to have less.
I would second that amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Lotiger to look into third-party billing. We got support by Director Dahl. Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, so it passes 5-2. And then we'll go ahead with The administrative, no, we're going to go ahead with administrative reductions now.
I would like them to look into third-party billing and keep the clinical social worker off the table for right now.
I think that the admin team will just generally look on all avenues that we can.
So there's other areas too.
We got a motion by Director Reardon, support by Director Yuhan to go ahead with administrative reductions.
And I made the amendment,
And the amendment passed.
and the amendment passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're good.
That's a good?
Done.
So we should be.
Yeah, we're done.
good.
Okay.
Do you understand? Are you good?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
Spencer.
So up next is 6.6.
We didn't vote on the,
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we
We
did.
did.
we voted on the amendment.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, but I think the amendment, she just added on to your amendment to cover.
Yeah, but we still have to vote on the motion, the original motion.
Of the administrative reductions.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
Kind of moot.
Thought.
I don't,
Kind of moot. No, it's,
No, it isn't.
She added
She added it.
to look into third-party billing on the administrative.
We have to go and vote on the original. Reardon Yuhan.
Okay, so we have motion by Director Reardon, support by Director Yuhan, or to go ahead with administrative reductions with the friendly amendment attached to it, passed 5-2 in regards to looking into the third-party billing. All those in favor signify by.
We have just one little discussion. Is this something that we should be having a working session on and just like hammering it out?
I think
Like,
This is what the principals and
I think
superintendent.
so. I think so.
I'm just asking.
I think
I
that,
get that we're under the gun for time and everything, but I've just, I don't like
I think it's been
having
brought up
reduct.
before, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't new information. It's been brought up before about these reductions. We've gotten information about this before.
Yeah, and I don't want to be argumentative or anything, but I'm just, he also, Spencer said there's other areas that we can look at. Well, we were just ignoring that. Yeah, we are ignoring it, like,
I'm
He said
I'm
that's why he kept
the,
them.
the person that says that's micromanaging. We pay our admin staff a lot of money to do their job, and their job is coming up with these recommendations. I could say I like industrial arts and we're doing something in industrial arts. She likes English. Somebody else might. Admin is giving us what their recommendations are, and I think we should just go ahead with it.
That's one opinion.
Yeah, well, that, I stated it, that's all.
But I think that Spencer also said that he had some of those potential budget cut things
He's got a whole list.
in what he presented to us.
What committee was?
And I looked.
To go to the Budget Finance Committee, unless you told me you wanted a work study session to talk about.
I don't think that's
I don't think
necessary.
it's
I don't
necessary.
think it's necessary either.
Thank you, Spencer.
I'd like to hear what Spencer has to say.
Come on.
I thought you were still talking, so I thought I'd come up. I have.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming that you've looked at all these categories and.
Yes. and
Okay.
There's a lot of things, like, I could have added dollars to utilities thinking we're gonna spend more, and then that makes our deficit more. But I don't know if that's gonna be for sure. And then there's other things where maybe they're a little high and we're gonna spend a little bit less next year, and they're all gonna equal out at the end.
Snow plowing is one example. You have no idea what it's going to be.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Yes, we put them in as a budget. We're guessing what's going to happen over a year from now to end it. Some are gonna hit that budget, some are gonna be a little bit high, some are gonna be a little bit low. We did have finance committee meetings a couple of times on these. Certainly can have another one.
And administrations provided their input and things. But like, I just think that if there's money that we can pay for that clinical social worker, we should be going for that so that we can keep that position.
Well, and the Northeast Service Co-op is getting into mental behavior, so they might be an extension that we can use also.
I think there's opportunities there.
Yeah.
And I think we already voted, and I guess what Tim is saying about voting for what he made a motion for, that seems like that should have been the first vote then.
No, it's the
No.
second vote.
Yeah. Yours was an amendment to his original motion.
If your amendment would have failed, then we would have voted on what John and I
Okay.
made the motion. Yours passed, yours was only on your amendment. We now have to vote on adding your amendment to
The original.
our motion. So I would like you to do that, board chair.
Spencer,
We got motion by Director Reardon, support by Director Yuhan for administrative reductions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-1.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, not a problem.
Up next is 6.6.
That's
Next is 6.6. Director Westby called me and she said she wanted to have a discussion on this curriculum advisory committee. I don't know how well you linked into it.
Well, not real lengthy. There is before I became a board member, I came to a couple of these where we would come and they're up on the site is it just 3 days, Noel? I don't know. But what I would like to bring forward to the board is giving more than a 3-day notice for this committee because of the public involvement. And if we know that we're going to have it 4 times a year or once a year or whatever, that it would be on the Rock Ridge site so that parents and community members will see this when they look at it. And that'll be like a stationary, it'll be there instead of just the 3 days on and then it's off, like our committee meetings are.
You're looking at a predetermined time.
Yep. If we could do that, if it's, twice a year, maybe we can say, May, whatever, and do that. And then just have the standard dates. And that being said, another thing I noticed on the subject, and when I attended the 2 of them, that everything, because this is supposed to be input from the public, it was more what's already been done on this committee by school personnel or whatever, and then they're just explaining the percentage and that this has already been implemented, so the people that are coming are not implementing, what their ideas are of the curriculum. So it's not really, at that, not worth their time to come because they're not really giving the input, right, John? So I would like to see some kind of changes there so that they have the information, they have tools, they have, there's more input from them.
So where would you?
So on this one, I thought it was posted longer than 3 days, but we will look into that, because yes, we can. Because it shouldn't be a mystery when these meetings are taking place. And as far as the input part of it, I was at the last one, not the whole thing, but part of it. And Alicia Schroeder, who runs the meeting, we do make an agenda. It's not an open, anybody say whatever they want to say. There is an agenda, and this is pretty much what every school in Minnesota does. And then they go through the agenda, and Alicia would say, she'd talk about different things that are going on, and she'd say, what do you think? And then the public who is there can say whatever they want to, but I will talk to Alicia, we'll add a part, so like community input, so if somebody from the community has an additional topic that they can add and say, hey, can we talk about this? And we can certainly do that.
Or even maybe Alicia, to email Alicia at this, for things that you are seeing important to talk about, just so that there's a back and forth of,
Yep, and
that might help too.
yes, and anything that you see on the Curriculum Advisory Committee, we have talked about this with the principals and the admin group back and forth again and again and again and again. And the teachers have been heavily involved in it, so almost anything that comes up, this is not new. There's usually been massive discussion behind the scenes on all of these topics internally. But part of the purpose of this is to bring this discussion more to the public, to the general public.
Exactly, so that you want more of their interaction.
Correct.
So I'm hoping that we can
So I will talk.
So we can get that done.
We'll add that agenda.
So who is the curriculum advisory committee in our district?
The curriculum advisor, usually the curriculum director in the district runs it. Assistant soup, if it's a bigger district, they usually run it. Usually there's a school board rep. Usually there are some teachers who attend, like this last, I think there were 3 or 4 teachers who were present and who attended. And then it's the public. It's anybody from the public can show up and attend. It's an open meeting. And so sometimes some districts, they will try to see if public wants to volunteer. If 1 or 2 public members want to volunteer to be on it for a year or 2, that's kind of common too. But here, this is anyone from the public can attend.
You know, attending, I brought this up before, and it's been kind of a long-standing, ongoing thing, is the Curriculum Advisory Committee, they're supposed to be an active working group and not just come to a meeting and have whoever you say the Curriculum Advisory Committee is, tell the people what they've done and then say, oh, do you have any other input? No, they're supposed to be an integral part of curriculum, about the courses, about classes. And we don't have that. We haven't had that for a long time. Former Evelyn Gilbert district, but we used to have it because that's statutory. And it says whenever possible, Curriculum Advisory Committee should be made up of a majority of parents and community people. And so just to say we've got some teachers and 1 or 2 people of the public and maybe a school board representative.
I think there were 4 public people who were there at the last meeting.
Okay, but it was, they didn't do anything. They didn't work through, they weren't a working group. We haven't had a working group that actually digs into this.
Holly, we can't drag words and sentences out of the public who are there.
But you set up a committee and, you know, you say, even representatives, the statute says that there shall be at least one representative from special ed and, you know, some teachers. We've got Curriculum Advisory Committee, we've got staff development statutory, and we've got site teams that are statutory. I don't think we have that structure in this district. We go through a curriculum review process that goes through 1, 2, or 3 subjects a year, and you've got like a 5 or 7 year cycle. You know, you institute something and then you let it run for 3 years or something, and then you evaluate it, and then you might say, well, we maybe need a different curriculum. That's the review cycle. That's not happening here, and the public has not been able to be part of that. Even, you know, so if we put something in for a day.
No, I don't agree that hasn't been part of what's happening.
How many people on the?
We do review. We do go through it.
All I know
that we get a report at the end of the year in December. It's the world's best workforce report, but it's all done.
Here's what I know. The former district, former principal, our superintendent says, you can't get people to sign up. You can't get teachers. You can't force teachers to be on a committee. You can't force them to come. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know that we've really tried, because we had active committees before. Put it in the
advertisements
letter.
Or in the past, we've had advertisements.
Nobody came.
Before asking.
Don't say you can't get people, because
I'm not saying that you can't get people, but there's not a huge turnout for it. And we had
monthly meetings.
I think
as a member of the previous Evelyn Gilbert board, I know that we did advertise for those things.
I think what Lisa's asking Noel to do, and he said he was gonna do, will broaden the spectrum of people knowing about it, and more people, if they want to come, will come.
And there'll be a
That's what I'm hoping.
date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
So
That's what I'm hoping.
Let's move ahead with that and see what we can do.
And we can do that at the beginning of every year, like we always preset. Here are the board dates, the board approves them, and this one we can put in there, say this is when the curriculum advisory committee is going to be, so everybody knows well in advance.
Yeah.
On that.
And
That would be wonderful.
Monthly, for sure. And the committee should be set up like now to hit the ground running for next year. And we did curriculum mapping, we did review of textbooks.
Who did that?
When I used to be on the staff development and the curriculum advisory committee, and we operated as statutorily it's set up. You haven't had that experience with the former Evelyn Gilbert board, but I have with Evelyn and the Evelyn Gilbert board, and real working working committees that do the work, they do that. Like I said, curriculum mapping even is a big one.
I do have to say that I think there is more interest now. There might not have been previously, but just the climate of, what's going on in the world today. I personally have had people ask me about curriculum, and I have said, well, there is this committee. So I do think this is probably a good step to at least, then we can see who's interested in.
Them asking and them signing up is two different things.
That is true, but if,
Give it a chance.
Yep.
We have former documents of the makeup of a curriculum advisory committee and how often they meet and everything. And I'd be happy, I've tried to share that with the former Evelyn Gilbert board. And it ran really well. And there are even bylaws in these documents, staff development. And it worked. And so let's maybe give it a chance to work again. Some things go by the wayside.
Move on to 6.1.
Have a conversation.
Okay, all right. And Paul, if you want to join in and help,
Absolutely.
or Lisa, since you brought it up, maybe you can go there. Or, okay? All right.
And the board one is non-existent, really. There's no board curriculum advisory committee, curriculum committee. There really isn't.
No, there isn't. I agree.
no, that's, yeah.
It's
I'm part of it.
That's what I said. It was made up of what, some board members, some staff, teachers, a bunch of people from the community.
Yeah, we're moving.
Well, these are two different
I thought
things.
Talking about two different
That's
things.
fine.
Let's move
All right, all right. All right, 6.61, we have the posting of the closing of the Virginia school. You want to shed some light on that there?
Yeah, what you have in front of you is there's an official process we have to go through to close Virginia High School. That's the first one we'd like to close because the Evelyn Gilbert High School will still be used, part of it, next year. There is an official legal notice that we need to post. It is not required that the board approve the posting of the legal notice. We have to do it. However, I would like to show this to you. And we're looking at May 22nd at 5:30, which is before a regular school board meeting. The primary purpose of this meeting is to make public comment available. Anyone from the public can show up and they can say whatever they want about it's a good idea to close it, it's not a good idea to close it. We have to have a court reporter there. It's an official meeting. And then after this meeting is over, at a separate meeting, the school board has to officially close the Virginia High School in this case. But the public has to be or not closed, but the public has to be given a choice to offer their opinion. So I'm suggesting May 22nd at 5:30, which is right before this regular, that we have a board meeting to have this meeting, see if public comes in, we'll have a court reporter here, and then you close this meeting when it's done, and then you have your regular meeting at 6 o'clock.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Motion by Director Reardon, support by Director Yuhan. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 6.7, the superintendent report. 6.7.1, Rockridge High School grand opening.
All right, in 30 seconds or less, we're having a grand opening on May 11th from 5 to 7 o'clock. Everyone from the public is invited. We'll start in the auditorium, in the gym, and then we'll have some ceremonies, we'll have some speakers, we'll have some singing for the folks, and then we'll have a process by which people who want to tour the building can get a tour. And if people want to just roam through the building, we'll also have that available for them to see the entire building. Anybody from the public is welcome. School board is welcome. It'll just be a fun time celebrating the opening of the new Rockridge High School. That's my superintendent report.
Awesome.
Yeah, all right. Any questions for Noel? Okay, 7.1, consider approval of the request on the Proctor Public Schools to purchase 4 rectangular basketball backboards and goals from the Virginia or Evelyn Gilbert gyms. Proctor would be responsible for removal.
This is like before. All of it, first of all, why we might want to use those, or if we sell the Evelyn Gilbert gyms or something, they might want it. And did Proctor approach us? How did they even know we had it?
There's a letter
I know,
in
but
the
I'm
board
saying
packet.
it's the same as
You knew
the,
that question.
It's the same as the discussion we just had before, just because somebody knows.
To auction.
And they're the first ones to come along and put their hand out to say, we might not even want to get rid of some of these.
So there's $300 for each one.
And they're asking,
Cool, coming, huh?
and they're asking for 4.
They're asking for 4.
How do you know some other entity might not want them? How about, maybe
We're going down in gyms too, when all this is said and done, those gyms might still be needed for little kids basketball or something too, so.
Now, what gym is this? Is
tearing things off the wall.
Now, just so the board knows, the gyms that we think they would, if you say yes, it would be the Virginia gym, because that building is going to get closed down. It's not going to be used. The heat's going to be disconnected. There's no electricity.
That would
So
be
those are the
gyms. There's 2 gyms in the old technical building.
The boys and girls gym.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so those, are they buying,
And again,
I mean,
shouldn't
you
the
could
whole
ver-
public have the chance to maybe want these if
I
we are going to
agree,
get rid
yeah,
of it?
because it's historic too, and that gym meant a lot to a lot of people, so.
And I
I'll ask for a
I'm just
motion.
saying,
Okay,
Ask for a
all
motion.
right, I'll ask for a
I
motion.
move that we.
No, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Director Reardon. Can I get support? Support? Support?
Fails.
Motion fails for lack of support, 7.1 that has failed.
And then we move on.
We move on, okay? Meeting announcements, the next regular meeting is May 8th, 6 o'clock here in this building. The Rockridge High School grand opening will be Thursday, May 11th, from 5 to 7, right across the way here. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'm making a motion.
Director
Who
Riss,
did that?
support by Director Lotiger. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Good night, everybody.